Chapter 487. If they hadn't personally witnessed it, they wouldn't have believed it. The ordinary-looking statue gave off an eye-catching light that covered the entire village. There was a loud explosion. The giant palm landed, and everyone thought that they would die. Who knew that they were perfectly fine? The light from the statue blocked the attack. Shui Jinru's face was filled with shock and disbelief. She stared at the statue, and huge waves rose up in her heart. Was what the village chief said true? The Alliance 9-star general was shocked and then laughed coldly. You do have some skills, but this is the end. The moment he said this, the 9-star general attacked once more. A vast power surged like a river and struck him. However, when he stretched out his hand, his heart suddenly stopped beating. His expression changed to one of panic and unease. Cold sweat dripped down from his forehead. He felt a terrifying aura cover him. Wong. The statue shook. The villagers cheered. The chief god was protecting them. From start to finish, they believed that the chief god wouldn't abandon them no matter what danger they faced. Shuizhong sat on the ground with a thud and muttered to himself in a daze. I didn't expect it to be true. Suddenly, an illusory figure appeared on the statue. Its face could not be seen clearly, but one could feel the might that the illusory figure emitted. It was vast and unstoppable. What is that? The Alliance 9-star general was shocked. He panicked and wanted to flee. Instantly, the image punched forwards. This fist was filled with an endless aura that pierced through the sky. One couldn't block it, and there was no way to block it at all. When the Alliance 9-star general saw the fist, he felt like his body was locked down. It was too late to flee. No, punk. One fist killed the Alliance 9-star general. He turned into dust and disappeared from the sky above the village. The Alliance members who followed wanted to run, but it was too late. Everywhere the world-shocking power passed through, everything exploded. Not even a wail could be heard as they completely disappeared without a trace. To everyone, everything happened too quickly, and it ended in the blink of an eye. The aura slowly disappeared, and the statue returned to its usual calm state. Shuizhong recovered from his momentary daze and knelt in front of the statue, worshipping it devoutly like the villagers. He believed everything that the village chief had said. It was all true. They were saved by the village chief and learned that the village chief had great strength. They thought of him as a hermit expert who was tired of fighting. Later on, the village chief said that everything they had was a gift from God, but they didn't believe him. Even if they said they believed him, it was just a perfunctory act. Until now, they completely understood. From the beginning, what the village chief said was true. He didn't lie to them, but they didn't believe it. They looked at the statue as if they could already feel the glory radiating from it. The village chief stood up and said, God told me that this place isn't safe. He told us to move. Everyone pack up, and we will leave this place. Yes, village chief. Marshal Path Mountain. Go. Z looked at young master who was standing there with his eyes closed. He didn't ask anything and didn't disturb him. He didn't know what was going on with young master and didn't dare to ask. Very soon, Lin Fan opened his eyes. The matter had been resolved. He used the power of faith to transfer the power to the statue. The person who came was just a Dao Realm Stage 3 9-star general. With his current strength, it was really easy for him to crush him. But if it was a Dao Realm Stage 4 9-star general, he wouldn't be able to do much if he transferred his power to the statue. After all, this was just a projection of power, and it couldn't reach the true strength of the main body. Such a thing happened in City of Darkness, and a 9-star general died there. So the Alliance definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. So, it was safer for them to move. Young Master, did something happen? Gozi asked. Lin Fan waved his hands. It is okay. Everything has been solved. It is just a small matter. It was indeed a small matter, but to others, it wasn't a small matter at all. It was a terrifyingly huge matter. Just at that moment, Zhang Tianshan hurried over. Sect leader, an old man wants to see you. Lin Fan was prepared to let Mu Gang continue to massage him and enjoy life. When he heard that someone wanted to see him, Lin Fan was a little confused. Do you know him? Lin Fan asked. Zhang Tianshan shook his head. No. Is he a guy or a girl? Old man. He doesn't seem reliable. I don't know where he came from, but he's a little arrogant. He said that if you don't see him, it will be your regret for the rest of your life. Zhang Tianshan had never seen such an arrogant person. If he wasn't a little old, he would have smacked him with a rod and made him run. Lin Fan thought about it and waved his hands. Let him wait. My body is a little tired and I need a rest for a while. He then told Mu Gang to continue the massage. It was so comfortable. So how could he be interrupted by some unimportant things? Mountain entrance. An old man who looked like a celestial stroked his beard. He looked really old, but his eyes were special and gave off a bright glow. This sect doesn't look like much, but it is gathering the luck of heaven and earth. An expert is about to appear. There is no hope for the former imperial dynasty. There will never be a prosperous imperial dynasty. We have to follow the times. The old man stood in front of the mountain entrance and felt that his arrival would bring about a huge change to the sect. Of course, he was thinking about how he would be respected like a senior. Time passed minute by minute and second by second. The old man's calm expression changed. He waited for a long time. This was different from what he thought. The old man smiled like he thought about something. Interesting, really interesting. You know that I have an extraordinary background and want to receive me with the highest standards? The old man was more active and thought about this possibility right away. Since that is the case, then I will give you some time. A long time passed. Zhang Tianshan passed the entrance and turned his head to take a look. He noticed that the old man was still waiting. He didn't want to bother, but forget it. There was a need to remind him that there was no point in waiting here. He then walked towards the old man. The old man looked at Zhang Tianshan and smiled confidently. Your sect leader is here? I don't care about such a fancy welcoming ceremony, but since your sect leader wants to, then I... Before he finished, Zhang Tianshan interrupted him. Why are you still here? Zhang Tianshan frowned and felt like this old man was a little problematic. What was he talking about? He didn't understand what he was saying at all. The old man was stunned like he didn't expect him to say such a thing. Zhang Tianshan didn't care about his expression and said directly, my sect leader is busy and can't come out to see you. Why don't you head back first, and when he is free, then you can come over. What? The old man was filled with disbelief and then hollered. You didn't bring my words. Zhang Tianshan said, I did. Sect leader said that regrets aren't important. The key is that he really doesn't have time now. The old man couldn't accept such treatment. Who was he? Others personally invited him out, and he didn't go. Now that he took the initiative to do so, he was actually looked down upon like that. Hateful. How hateful. With his temperament, he would naturally turn around and leave. Then, he left behind a few words. Your Marshall Path Mountain missed out on me, and that is your loss. Don't regret it in the future. That was something he would only do under normal circumstances. The current situation wasn't normal. The old man didn't leave. He took in a deep breath and calmed himself down. Is he looking down on me? Go tell him that I know fate. I am connected to yin and yang. There is nothing I don't know. Zhang Tianxian frowned and muttered, damn, another scammer. What did you say? The old man felt like Zhang Tianshan was saying something bad. Zhang Tianshan waved his hands. I didn't say anything. Wait a moment, I will tell you. He turned around and left. He dissed in his heart. Damn, how are there so many cheaters in the world to cheat people all the way to Marshall Path Mountain? Hayes. Of course, he really wanted to tell Lin Fan. That was because he thought about himself in the past. Wasn't he a cheater? His acting skills were not bad, and he was probably really experienced. If he really kept him in Marshall Path Mountain, he could teach him. It would be one less cheater in the world, and then everything would be filled with beauty. Seeing Zhang Tianshan leave, the old man shook his head helplessly. He didn't expect that he would face such a situation when he came to help the future leader. To the old man, he definitely didn't report back to him. This kid was so tough to deal with. After a long while, Zhang Tianshan returned. Sect leader said that he can meet you, but to prove whether or not you are really talented, he will give you a simple question. If he can answer it, then he will meet you. The old man said, okay, speak. Zhang Tianshan said, Where is sect leader's cousin? To the old man, he was well-versed in the past, and there was nothing that could stop him. Thus, he didn't care much about it. He just had a bad impression of Zhang Tianshan. He felt that this person was a kid. When he heard that question, the old man was stunned. What was that question? What did it have to do with him where sect leader's cousin was? He had never seen him and didn't know what he looked like. Why didn't he ask where his 8th aunt's nephew's daughter was? This question is a little preposterous. The old man forced a smile and asked. He really didn't expect that it would be so difficult to meet someone. That was just too much. Zhang Tianshan said, I am not. This is what the sect leader told me to ask you. He told the sect leader that the old man outside was a cheater who said that he knew destiny and was connected to yin and yang. He made it sound like he was really amazing. This attracted Lin Fan's interest. Since that was the case, then he didn't hold back. The old man took in a deep breath. I am a human and not an omniscient god, so I can't answer this question. Zhang Tianshan muttered softly. If you don't know, then why are you bragging? The old man stared at him in rage. What are you saying? Zhang Tianshan shook his head. I didn't say anything. Chapter 488. The old man was the divinator. He was an expert in seclusion. Lin Wani invited him, but he didn't agree. That was because he predicted that the former imperial dynasty wouldn't be able to return to its former glory. Moreover, he predicted that Lin Wani would face a calamity. If he followed beside him, he would suffer. Of course, he couldn't reveal the secrets of the heavens. Otherwise, he would be the scapegoat. This was why he came out to search for the person destined by the heavens. If Lin Wani knew that the divinator had left right after he left, he would have smashed his head. Was this what you meant when you told me you wanted to live in seclusion and farm? Who would believe you? Zhang Tianshan said regretfully, if you can't answer the question, the sect leader won't meet you. You should leave. This place isn't suitable for you. The divinator was stunned. What kind of joke was that? He actually said that this place wasn't suitable. He didn't want to meet the Marshall Path Mountain sect leader, but for his own pride. He wanted to meet him and ask him directly. Who was he looking down on? What kind of status did the divinator have? When others begged him, he didn't care at all. Now that he sent himself to him, he was actually despised. He couldn't accept such humiliation. I won't leave. Today, I want to meet the Marshall Path Mountain sect leader. The divinator said stubbornly. His expression was totally different from before, and it was so huge that it was a little scary. He was going all out against Marshall Path Mountain. He had never suffered such humiliation before. Zhang Tianshan looked at him and didn't know what to say. What was the point? Forget it, forget it. Since he was so firm, then he would just wait. Zhang Tianshan shook his head and left. He was helpless towards this person who insisted on fighting to the death. The divinator looked at Marshall Path Mountain and rage flashed in his eyes. More importantly, he didn't want to leave this place. Looking closely, Marshall Path Mountain was covered in luck. In other words, it was the will of the heavens. If he missed this shop, there wouldn't be another one. Mu Gang rubbed her palms, causing them to heat up. She pressed onto his back, and then her fingers curled. Her fingernails touched his back, and it felt really numb. Comfortable. Lin Fan closed his eyes. It was so comfortable that he was about to fall asleep. Head, I don't think the old faker will leave until he sees you. Zhang Tianshan ran over once more. Why don't I just take a look? That old man isn't young anymore. He is still lying to people at his age. How pitiful. Wait. Lin Fan closed his eyes and told Zhang Tianshan not to speak. He was feeling good, at least until he was done. After a long time, Lin Fan opened his eyes and sat up straight. He twisted his neck, feeling great. He looked towards Zhang Tianshan. Are you thinking of letting him join Marshall Path Mountain? How can that be? It just looks pitiful. Zhang Tianshan shook his head and said he would never admit that he just wanted to teach the old faker a lesson and make him repent. Lin Fan looked at Zhang Tianshan. After a while, all right, let's go take a look. At the entrance of the mountain, in the distance, Zhao Lishan and Swordhead were discussing what to do next. Zhao Lishan looked at the old man, standing at the entrance of the mountain, and fell into deep thought. Sir Head, look at that person. Don't you find him familiar? Swordhead came back to his senses and looked into the distance. At first, he didn't see anything, but shortly after, his expression changed. It was obvious that he recognized who it was. Why would the divinator appear here? Swordhead was shocked. It wasn't because something amazing had happened, but because the divinator was a special person and rarely appeared in the world. Now that he appeared in Marshall Path Mountain, Swordhead was shocked. I have heard of him. Zhao Lishan had never seen the divinator before. He had been in Laozhan City for a long time and was a normal commoner. He had never had any conflicts with the outside world. Naturally, he hadn't seen the divinator, but he had heard of his name. I heard that the divinator would avoid calamity and wouldn't go to places that wouldn't benefit him. Did he come to Marshall Path Mountain because there was something he was interested in? Swordhead was confused. If there was something he was interested in, it would be young Master Lin. Apart from young Master Lin, he couldn't think of any other shocking place. The divinator stood at the entrance and suppressed the rage in his heart as he waited. He had already thought about it. When he met the Marshall Path Mountain sect leader, if he didn't apologize to him, he would show off his talent and then leave. He would let him regret it. He wanted to tell him that it was their good fortune that he came. Unfortunately, they didn't cherish it. Then, he wouldn't accompany them to the end and let them regret it. He is here. When the divinator saw Zhang Tianshan walk over from afar, a smile appeared on his face. But that smile seemed to be sending a message that they didn't know what was good for them. My sect leader is here, Zhang Tianshan said. Why did the old man want to meet the sect leader? He even forgot to say that he was the deputy sect leader, and if he had anything, he could tell him. Lin Fan said impatiently. Who is it? Why does he want to meet me? Marshall Path Mountain was developing well, and batch after batch of experts came. They had enough manpower, and the only thing they lacked was top combat strength. But that didn't matter. He would become a top expert himself, and didn't need others to be stronger than him. You're the sect leader. It really isn't easy for me to come here to meet you. The divinator's tone wasn't good. He looked towards Lin Fan and wanted to say something. But that one look stunned the divinator. Yeah, how eye-piercing. The divinator covered his eyes, and his expression was really exaggerated. Lin Fan looked at Zhang Tianshan like he was asking him, why did he ask him to meet a lunatic? Zhang Tianshan felt like he was innocent. This had nothing to do with him, so how would he know that he was a fool? The divinator didn't dare to use the Eye of Destiny to look at Lin Fan, as it was too eye-catching. If he looked for too long, his eyes would be blinded. He only wanted to say that. How terrifying. Even when the Imperial Dynasty was at its peak, it didn't have such thick destiny. Moreover, the destiny of the Imperial Dynasty didn't come from one person, but from numerous people. But now, this person's destiny was even stronger than when the Imperial Dynasty was at its peak. It terrified the divinator so much that his heart jumped. At that moment, flames burned in the divinator's heart. He only thought about one thing, which was that if he could mix with Lin Fan, then his future would be amazing. Even a pig would be able to fly if he stood on the wind. And he wanted to be the pig that stood on top of the wind. Although he called himself the Heaven's Fate Master, when he was weak, he was extremely unlucky. His fate was full of ups and downs, and he had endless disasters. After he could see through destiny, he started to play with people with destiny. He used their destiny to slowly change himself. But now, he realized that all the people he had seen with destiny added up weren't even as thick as one of his fingers. Damn, how is there such a person? Even the son of the heavens wouldn't be so vicious. Lin Fan frowned and felt like this old man was arrogant. He dared to be so arrogant in his territory. He was just so arrogant. Not to mention Zhang Tianshan begging to let him in. He had to teach him a lesson to let him know how important it was to speak nicely. But, suddenly, the divinator walked forwards with a friendly and respectful expression. I have heard of sect leader Lin's name for a long time. I came from so far away just to see your true face. Now that I have seen it, I am filled with emotions. Sect leader Lin is like a dragon amongst humans, a dragon amongst dragons. To be able to see sect leader Lin is a blessing that I have cultivated for 3 lives. Zhang Tianshan was stunned. His lips moved, and he could only mutter to express what he was feeling. Previously, The old faker was very arrogant, as if he was the lawless one. But looking at the situation, he instantly turned into a bootlicker, and his bootlicker was really sharp. He wanted to ask the other party, "You're so good at sucking up to your face?" But thinking about how he was just trying to earn a living, he forgave him. After all, it wasn't easy to earn a living. He was the same in the past, but he was lucky and didn't have to worry about food. He even became the deputy sect leader. Just thinking about it made him feel like the heavens were taking care of him. Lin Fan didn't know what to say after being sucked up by the heavens' fate master. "You, what do you want to do?" He could see that Lin Fan was someone with cultivation. He should be around Dao Realm Stage 6. If it was in the past, he would have looked up to him. But now, if he wasn't Dao Realm Stage 7, he wouldn't even want to speak. The divinator said, "Sect Leader Lin, I didn't come here to do anything. I was influenced by Sect Leader Lin's charisma and want to follow Sect Leader Lin to do something big. I believe that under Sect Leader Lin's leadership, I will be able to shine again." Lin Fan looked at him and just looked at him. The divinator felt a little uneasy from Lin Fan's gaze, and he felt like he was being suspected. Even if someone held a knife to his neck and told him to scram out of Marshall Path Mountain, he wouldn't. To be able to meet someone with such terrifying luck was a huge, fortuitous encounter. If he could let this go, then why not just smash his head into a wall? Although he didn't know what the luck of the people beside Lin Fan was like, without even looking, he knew that their luck would change. Marshall Path Mountain doesn't accept the old and weak. "What ability do you have?" Lin Fan asked. The divinator said, "Sect Leader Lin, I know fate and can avoid calamity. I will definitely be of great help to Marshall Path Mountain." "Okay, then let me test you." Lin Fan thought about it and asked, "Do you know where my cousin is?" The divinator was stunned once more. Why was it this question again? Did these people really think that he was a god? If he was, then why would he come to this place? But after seeing Lin Fan's luck, the divinator followed his heart and said calmly, "Sect Leader Lin, I really can't divine it." If it was someone else, the divinator's attitude would have changed. He would have said something. Scram. Chapter 489. You don't even know this, yet you call yourself knowing destiny, connecting yin and yang, a fraud. Lin Fan was filled with disdain. He didn't have high hopes for this old man who had come to seek refuge. Although Lin Fan was Dao Realm Stage 6, he didn't know where he came from. Especially at such a crucial moment, he couldn't just let him go. Who knew where he came from and what his goal was? The divinator's face turned red. He swore to God that this was the worst humiliation he had ever received. This was too much. However, he was very worried now. It wasn't that the divinator didn't think about it. He came to Marshall Path Mountain to join them. Even if he was strong, they might not believe him. "Ed, I'm afraid it's not easy for this old faker to get along outside. Why don't you let him follow me and let me train him well?" Zhang Tianshan didn't have much of a reaction to the word scammer. After all, he wasn't a scammer. Moreover, he was talking about him, and it had nothing to do with him. The divinator didn't even look at Zhang Tianshan. Out of the entire Marshall Path Mountain, only Lin Fan was worth his attention. The others were all trash to him and weren't worth mentioning at all. He saw through Zhang Tianshan's cultivation. Such a weak person wanted a divinator to follow him? Was there something wrong with his head? "Sect Leader Lin, to tell you the truth, I know your father," the divinator said. He had no choice but to say this. If he didn't, he wouldn't be able to do things smoothly. "Oh," Lin Fan wasn't interested. "All right, I'll give you one last chance. Where's my dad?" The divinator. Holy shit. If it wasn't for his inner quality, he really wanted to curse. "After asking my cousin, I asked your father. You didn't even know, so how would I know?" Calm down, calm down. You can't get angry. You have to stay calm." "Sect Leader Lin, I really don't know." The divinator really wanted to kneel down and tell Lin Fan to take him in. His luck was really strong, and he really wanted to follow him. He wanted to fly into the sky and stand beside the sun. Could he give him such a chance? Lin Fan shook his head. "Disappointing. How disappointing. You don't know anything, and you dare to say that you know your destiny. I hate people who brag the most." When the divinator heard Lin Fan's words, It was as though there were thousands of sharp blades stabbing into his heart. Oh my God, was this even something a human could say? What did he take him for? Did he take him for a god? Also, what's with the look in this guy's eyes when he wanted me to follow him? Zhang Tianshan was unhappy with the divinator. This guy would not shed a tear until he saw his coffin. He had clearly given him a chance, but he did not cherish it. This was truly disappointing. Why do you have to brag in front of Lin Fan? Don't you know that this kid had a lot of tricks up his sleeve? Not even the slightest bit of movement can escape his eyes. Sai, you look quite old, but I didn't expect you to still be so young. You haven't settled down at this age, and you're still fooling around. Zhang Tianshan wasn't young, but at least he was smart. Now that he was the deputy sect leader, his status was pretty good. Sect leader Lin, I really can't do what you said. Other people can't do it either. The divinator said. Lin Fan said, it's normal for others to not be able to do it. But since you claim to know destiny, you're definitely not a normal person. If you don't even know this, then how can you show that you're different from others, right? The divinator looked at Lin Fan like he was right no matter what he said. What could he do? He just wanted to ask what else could he say since he had already said that. Young Master Lin. At that moment, Zhao Lishan and Sword Head walked over from the distance. The divinator looked at the two of them. He didn't care at first, but when he saw Sword Head, his expression changed. A person who was already dead was still alive. Is his luck really that strong? The divinator muttered and found it unbelievable. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he wouldn't have believed it. Zhao Lishan pulled Lin Fan to the side and said softly, Sword Head told me that this person is a divinator who is really strong. If he is here to join us, we can consider taking him in. Lin Fan asked, Sword Head knows him? I do, but he might not know Sword Head. Zhao Lishan said. After he heard Sword Head say all this, he felt that this divinator was different. He might not be the strongest, but he was really good in other areas and had abilities that normal people couldn't have. After hearing Zhao Lishan's words, Lin Fan nodded his head. He didn't need people now. In terms of strength, he wasn't important. But since he had other special abilities, that made one really curious. He wasn't dumb. He was just teasing him. The divinator didn't know what the two of them were talking about, but they would look at him from time to time. It actually made him a little nervous. It was like they were testing him, and he was worried about whether or not he would be chosen. Such a situation wouldn't have happened in the past. Not long later, Lin Fan asked, Do you really want to follow me? Follow? The divinator was stunned and then said, Sect Leader Lin, I don't want to follow you. I am someone who wants to do something. Don't worry about whether or not I want to do something. I just want to ask you, do you want to follow me? Lin Fan frowned and asked impatiently. One annoying fellow. If he wanted to follow, then follow. Why did he have so many tricks? The divinator said helplessly, I want to. Lin Fan nodded. Okay, since you want to, then I will take you in as a disciple. Think about it. If you are willing, then so be it. If not, then forget it. When Sword Head heard young Master Lin's words, he was stunned. Although he wasn't familiar with the divinator, he knew that he was a proud person. He had roamed the world for a long time and had a high status. How could he become someone else's disciple? One didn't even need to think about it. That was basically impossible. Sword Head shook his head. It seemed like young Master Lin was going to miss out on the help of an expert. If it was meant to be, then it was meant to be. Sword Head couldn't say much. The choice was up to young Master Lin. They could only tell young Master Lin about his background. Whether or not he treated him was up to young Master Lin. The divinator looked at Lin Fan and blinked. He was a little stunned. Disciple? Damn, he actually said such words. If someone else said such words to him, he would have risked his life to fight him. That was just too much. Did he really think that he was here to beg? At that moment, rage burned in the divinator's heart. He insulted him time and time again, and he was just a bully. The Eye of Destiny looked at Lin Fan. Aya, it was so King dazzling. Okay, I am here to follow Sect Leader Lin. Naturally, I will listen to your arrangements. The divinator cupped his fists and said. His expression was firm, and he didn't seem like he was lying at all. Sword Head looked at the divinator with his mouth agape. He was totally stunned. Was he a fake divinator? Zhang Tianshan, since that is the case, then I will leave him to you. Bring him along in the future." Lin Fan said. Zhang Tianshan smiled. "Don't worry, sect leader. I will arrange everything." Lin Fan knew his background, but he definitely wouldn't trust him. Who knew what his goal was for coming to Marshall Path Mountain? But as long as he wasn't a dog of the Alliance, so what if he gave him a chance? Zhao Lishan stood beside Swordhead and said softly, "Swordhead, didn't you say that this person has an extraordinary background? Why can he take such humiliation?" Swordhead didn't understand. He thought about it for a moment and said slowly, "Maybe he has a request, which is why he is willing to take such humiliation." Truthfully, he really didn't understand what the divinator was thinking about. Young Master Lin was really amazing, but even so, there was no need for him to lower himself like that, right? Since he wasn't welcomed, then he could just leave. What was the point? The divinator didn't know what Swordhead was thinking, otherwise, he would have grumbled. "What do you know? If I meet someone with such great luck, let alone becoming a disciple, I'll even consider becoming a servant." A rare chance was right in front of his eyes. If he didn't cherish it, he would regret it in the future. Zhao Lishan thought about it. Then, we have to be careful in the future. Since the matter was solved, Lin Fan wasn't interested anymore. He just wanted to have a good rest. As for the divinator joining in, that was just a small interlude, and it wasn't much at all. Zhang Tianshan took the divinator away. To Zhang Tianshan, he always felt that Lin Fan was a fraud who wasn't doing well. Compared to him, the gap was just too huge. Looking at how pitiful he was, if he had time, he would teach him a lesson. He would develop him into a qualified fraud. The divinator heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he could join Marshall Path Mountain and enjoy the benefits of the luck, then it would be a success. In the past, his thoughts were really simple. He just wanted to find someone with decent luck. He didn't need to reach the peak of the dynasty, but he didn't want it to be too bad. Who would have thought that there would be such a monstrous genius with such luck? If he couldn't even grab such a chance, then he would have lived his life for nothing. He looked at Zhang Tianshan, who was leading the way. This person was covered in luck, and his destiny was showing signs of riches and honor. In the future, he would probably be someone important. With his strength, for him to have such a destiny, he was already an anomaly. Logically speaking, such strength should have disappeared long ago, and he should have become one of the commoners. Suddenly, the divinator stopped on the spot. His eyes opened wide, and he was in a daze. "What are you doing? Why aren't you leaving?" Zhang Tianshan frowned. What was going on with this old fellow? What was he looking at? He followed his gaze and saw that the person in the distance was Gozi. What was there to be surprised about? Deputy Sect Leader Zhang. "Who is this person?" the divinator asked anxiously. Zhang Tianshan said impatiently, "Gozi, he is the sect leader's servant. Don't offend him, otherwise the sect leader will beat you up." The divinator was stunned. The image of a great emperor. He was the second luckiest person in Marshall Path Mountain. If he didn't ask to die and nothing unexpected happened, his future would be amazing. "I want to become a servant." The divinator muttered to himself, as if he had discovered something extremely important. He could tell that the other party's luck was also acquired. It wasn't Xiantian luck at all. That could only mean that his destiny was formed under sect leader Lin's guidance. That was just too terrifying. Zhang Tianshan took a look and heard his muttering. He only had one thought in his mind. Something was wrong with him. Chapter 490. This is an amazing place. This was the position that the divinator gave Marshall Path Mountain. He only had one thought in his heart. If he could, he was willing to become Lin Fan's most loyal and friendly partner. That night, the divinator stood on a mountain peak in the distance. His eyes shone with a golden light as he observed the landscape around Marshall Path Mountain. A normal mountain range with nothing special about it. He was certain that the changes in Marshall Path Mountain were all caused by Lin Fan alone. He was just so sick in the head. He had to work hard to get into the group. He had to show his strength to gain their respect. When that happened, luck would be on his body, and he would charge forwards bravely. Imperial Dynasty. The lights were bright. In the Imperial Dynasty prison, there were furious roars and shrill screams. Zhu Xiang stood there without moving at all. His expression was calm, but his eyes were filled with panic. King Wutong, you despicable person. We came to join you, and this is how you treat us? Ah! The tentacle broke through the air and pierced his body. Very quickly, his body disintegrated and his flesh and blood were all absorbed. All that was left was a pile of clothes on the ground. Zhu Xiang sensed that something was happening in the imperial dynasty. That was because from the start, maids kept disappearing. Later on, they showed no signs of disappearing, but those experts who joined the imperial dynasty disappeared for no reason. He wanted to find out. In the end, he realized that everything was because of King Wudong, and King Wudong was eating people. When King Wudong noticed Zhu Xiang, he didn't tell him to keep it a secret. Instead, he patted his shoulder. Everything I do is for the imperial dynasty. As my most trusted person, are you willing to head forwards with me? At that moment, Zhu Xiang was touched. He knelt in front of King Wudong and swore that he was willing to help King Wudong expand his territory. But now, he looked at the scenes in front of him. King Wudong's viciousness made him really afraid. This wasn't something a human could do. A living person disappeared in the blink of an eye. Each time King Wudong swallowed a person, he could sense a dark aura spreading out from King Wudong's body. But he could sense that King Wudong's strength had increased. Relying on devouring others to strengthen themselves, this kind of method was even crueler and more ferocious than the corrupt path. But he could understand. The pressure from the Alliance headquarters was just too huge. With the current strength of the Imperial Dynasty, they didn't have the ability to fight against the Alliance. They didn't even have a chance. Very quickly, the screams in the dungeon disappeared, and the people who were captured also disappeared from this world. Congratulations for improving your strength. Zhu Xiang knelt down and congratulated. King Wutong stood in the darkness, and his eyes shone red. Very quickly, the red light disappeared, and he walked out of the darkness with a smile on his face. He was the same as before, and there were no changes at all. How is Lu Xian and the Alliance? King Wudong asked. Zhu Xiang said, Your Majesty, Lu Xian is really ambitious. Everything he has was given to him by Your Majesty, but he colluded with the Alliance. I followed Your Majesty's instructions and told some secrets to some people. I think Lu Xian knows about it and should have reported it to the Alliance. It's just that I have a question. Why didn't you kill Lu Xian? King Wutong was calm. He is still useful. The current imperial dynasty didn't have the ability to go up against the Alliance on the surface. The Alliance could use brute force to suppress the imperial dynasty. As for the imperial dynasty, they could only rely on some schemes to slowly strengthen themselves. King Wudong didn't trust others and only trusted himself. As long as his strength rose to a certain level, all problems would be solved and there wouldn't be any more problems. Zhu Xiang lowered his head and didn't say anything more. Martial Path Mountain. Lin Fan officially started his path of expansion. Now, there were many experts following Martial Path Mountain. Unless they faced top sects, they would be unobstructed and no one would be able to stop them at all. Pre-war mobilization. Those disciples who believed in Lin Fan basically didn't need to cultivate and just worshipped Lin Fan. As long as they worshipped him, they would be able to increase their strength. This was why only lunatics would work so hard to increase their strength. When Lin Fan appeared, those disciples worshipped him like they were possessed. They were all addicted. Each time they worshipped him, they didn't feel anything, but as they continued to worship him, one day, their cultivation would suddenly increase. In their opinion, cultivation was way too *King easy. Lin Fan wanted to say something to motivate them, but looking at the situation, he didn't need to say anything. Maybe this was because his charisma was just too terrifying. The divinator looked at the people worshipping him and was shocked. These people were really amazing. To follow Lin Fan, who was so lucky, they actually worshipped him so crazily. That was just too terrifying. This was his second day in Martial Path Mountain, and he hadn't merged into the group yet. He knew that he had to think of a way to merge into them. If he didn't work hard, then he would be no different from salted fish. Sect leader Lin, let me divine your luck for this trip. The divinator waved his palm in front of him, and weird runes appeared in the air. He couldn't understand them, but they seemed really strong. Scoff. As time went on, the divinator's expression changed. Solemn, confused, and weird. Lin Fan took a look and didn't bother about him at all. Head out, expand our territory, and fight for Marshall Path Mountain. Yes, sect leader. The faith disciples left swiftly. They were all pumped up. This was a battle to open up Marshall Path Mountain, and it was a huge matter that made them all excited. The divinator was anxious. Haze, I am divining. How can I pata? Zhang Tianshan patted the divinator's shoulder. Okay, stop with all this nonsense. We are all on the same side, so stop lying. But your move is really amazing. What are those runes? They're so realistic, and I am interested in them. To be able to use such realistic moves and still end up in such a bad state, that only meant that there was something wrong with his brain. Zhang Tianxian was a little interested. He had already spoken like that. Logically speaking, as long as one was knowledgeable, they would definitely express their feelings when they heard his words. The divinator was furious. He felt like he was being underestimated. Such a situation had never happened before, and now it really happened. He wanted to question Lin Fan. As the Marshall Path Mountain sect leader, why didn't he give him face? But even if he was 10 times more courageous, he wouldn't dare to. He wanted to stay in Marshall Path Mountain, and if he missed this chance, he would have no more. Sect leader Lin, Swordhead and I have scouted the situation 1,000 miles out. There are more and more sects, and there's also a country. Zhao Lishan said. Lin Fan nodded. Our target is the sects outside and slowly occupy them. In the current era, the weak sects don't have the ability to protect themselves. They still exist, but they are unwilling to give up what they have now. The higher-ups of the sects all know that they want to disband their sects, but don't have a good reason. They also don't have the determination, so we will be the bad guys. To think that such a shameless thing could be described in such a reasonable manner. Zhang Tianshan muttered. He always thought that he underestimated Lin Fan, but it seemed like he really did. Instantly, Zhang Tianshan sensed the terrifying gaze and raised his head awkwardly. His expression was solemn and respectful as he raised his thumb. Sect leader, amazing. Zhao Lishan said, Young Master Lin, will there be repercussions? Lin Fan smiled. What repercussions can there be? After so many things, isn't the strongest the king? Since the alliance is here, the so-called sects are useless and might as well not exist. So, what we need to do is to let Marshall Path Mountain only exist in the world. Shock. Zhao Lishan and the others looked at Lin Fan in shock. It was obvious that they didn't expect young Master Lin to have such a thought. To let Marshall Path Mountain only exist in the world, who would have the courage to say such words? Even if others heard it, they would just laugh out loud. Zhao Lishan and the others knew that Lin Fan was strong, and at the same time, they were on the same boat. But they still didn't believe it and hid it deep in their hearts. The one who was the most emotional was the divinator. He looked at Lin Fan excitedly. Other people didn't believe it, but he did. Damn. As expected, he had a good eye for talent. If he had divined it earlier and met sect leader Lin earlier, then the situation would have been different. Before the alliance broke through the border, he had been divining it, but it was all gray, and he couldn't see the future. He could only see that it was a disaster. After the alliance broke through the border, he made some progress and was able to see some clues. On a certain day, after the clouds were pushed aside, one could see the clear sky. Everything was clear, and he saw where his future luck was. This was why when Lin Wani found him, he rejected him right away. Stop dreaming if you want to recover the former imperial dynasty. The former imperial dynasty was destined to be wiped out. Lin Wani's luck wasn't weak, but he dragged a dynasty that was destined to be wiped out and helped the former imperial dynasty survive. His luck was reduced by half, and a calamity was destined to happen. Of course, he definitely wouldn't tell Lin Wani all this. The secrets of the heavens couldn't be revealed. If he revealed too much, he would be punished by the heavens. I believe that sect leader will be able to sweep the sects in the world. Such actions will be a huge achievement, and one day, sect leader will become the top person in the world. His light will shine across the world, and everyone will worship him. The divinator said. He was really emotional, and hoped that such a day would come. Zhang Tianshan patted the divinator's head. "You old man, you are so good at bootlicking. How did you end up in such a tragic state?" "Hayes, I really don't understand." The divinator was furious. He had such a high status, and this deputy sect leader dared to be so arrogant. Swordhead looked at Zhang Tianshan and could only say that he didn't know where he came from. He was calm and didn't fear anything. Amazing. Chapter 491. Young Master Lin, the one ahead is just a mid-tier sect. We can solve it, so there is no need for so much trouble. Marshall Path Mountain occupied 1,000 miles, and there were sects 1,000 miles away. They weren't really strong. They were just mid-tier. Either he or the Sword Master would be able to deal with it easily. They didn't even need to attack. They just needed to release their aura, and they would be able to suppress them such that they wouldn't even think about fighting back. Lin Fan was really calm, and one couldn't see any emotions from him. Some things need to be done personally. He could say that he needed rage points. If he let them solve it so easily, then what was there to see? Lin Fan was eager to get to Dao Realm Stage 4. Once he reached Stage 4, his strength would definitely be able to fight against the strongest 9-star generals. So what if the top sects had experts? When both sides fought, it would depend on who could last until the end. The divinator was in a bad mood. First, he was ignored by Lin Fan. That was okay, as he had a good attitude and wouldn't bother about such things. But Zhang Tianshan actually smacked his head. That dog was just so lawless. If not for him being the deputy sect leader of Marshall Path Mountain, he definitely wouldn't have tolerated it. He would have chopped off his hand. But one had to listen to one's heart. Following a lucky person was such a joyous thing. So why did he have to do all those fancy things? Great Tribulation Temple. This sect was Lin Fan's target this time. The overall strength of the sect was decent, and it was considered a mid-tier sect with a Dao Realm expert. This was a Dao Realm expert that their sect had spent so much effort to get to. It really wasn't easy. They didn't join Buddha Alliance, and didn't move their sect to Buddha Alliance territory. In their words, they were sects with dreams and goals. They would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Just looking at the 1,000 miles around, which power was stronger than their Great Tribulation Temple? At that moment in the main hall, the higher-ups of Great Tribulation Temple were all gathered together. Sect leader, there's a faction that is developing really quickly near our Great Tribulation Temple. It has already seriously affected our position. An elder said. He was really worried that such a thing would happen, and he felt that things weren't going well. The surrounding elders started discussing among themselves. Right, a while ago, many people passed by the Great Tribulation Temple, and after asking, they found out that there was a really arrogant faction there that wiped out all the sects within 1,000 miles. Those normal sects couldn't fight back at all, and were all chased away. Of course, there were also some elders who did not take this matter to heart. Actually, there's no need to worry about this matter. The ones we're eliminating are just some ordinary sections. What can those sects count as? If they don't offend us, it is okay. But if they dare to offend us, we will let them know how tragic the outcome is. The sect leader's expression was solemn and dignified, and he didn't say anything. Finally, he raised his hand and waved it down. Be quiet. Don't take this matter to heart. Send some disciples to scout out the situation and see what kind of background this new force has. He was a little curious about this new force. As they got closer to Great Tribulation Temple, there would definitely be a conflict in the future. Therefore, they had to be fully prepared. If the other party's strength wasn't sufficient, then he would naturally have to completely destroy the other party before they grew up, so as to prevent future troubles. There was a loud rumble. The entire hall began to shake violently. What happened? The sect leader's face was dark and sunken. What was going on outside for there to be such a commotion? To the people from Great Tribulation Temple, they didn't know what was going on. The reason was because Lin Fan descended from the sky and jumped down. When his feet landed on the ground, power spread out from his legs. Cracks appeared on the ground and spread in all directions. Lin Fan wanted to use a simple and violent method to shock everyone. At the same time, He would draw all the Great Tribulation Temple disciples out and let them personally witness how their sects were disbanded. So, if you have rage points, then throw them at me. I will take them all. The divinator exclaimed. Sect leader Lin is such an energetic young man. Zhang Tianshan wasn't here. If he was, he would definitely frown and scold. Was his brain so smart? Why was he so good at sucking up? Lin Fan's method of descent was a little violent. The Great Tribulation Temple disciples surged out like fish. They didn't dare to get too close, but they had already surrounded him. But when they saw the situation, their faces turned ashen white, and they broke out in a cold sweat. The ground was cracking. Many buildings had cracks on them, like they could collapse at any moment. Many people were discussing. Who is he? He actually dares to cause trouble here. How terrifying. What did he do to cause such an effect? He is an expert, and we can't go up against him. Who is going up? Take them down. I don't dare. I don't dare either. They only dared to look on and not charge up to take him down. Rage points increased. Some gave very few rage points, but some were decent and worth praising. The first wave of rage points made Lin Fan feel really good. Where are the higher-ups of your Great Tribulation Temple? Are they so frightened that they scrammed? Lin Fan stood with his arms behind his back. His voice was like a bell that spread out in the Great Tribulation Temple. The moment he said this, preposterous, a furious roar spread out from the distance. The Great Tribulation Temple sect leader's face was dark and sunken. Rage burned in his heart. Who dared to cause trouble here? Very quickly, he saw Lin Fan, who was surrounded by people. Who are you? What is your goal for coming here? The sect leader hollered. The surrounding elders were furious. But when they saw how calm he was, they were shocked. This kid was too calm. So did he have trump card? But all of that wasn't important now. As long as they dared to cause trouble here, they would have to pay a price. This was how overbearing they were. Lin Fan took a look and was slightly disappointed. There weren't any strong people. Only the sect leader was a Dao Realm Stage 1 expert. The others were just SOSO. Lin Fan raised his hand, and everyone thought that he was going to attack. Guys, I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just want to persuade all of you to leave. In the future, the Great Tribulation Temple will just disappear. I don't want to attack, and I don't want to leave any wounds on your bodies. I just want to persuade all of you to know what is good for you. Uproar. Everyone from the Great Tribulation Temple was furious. Not only was the sect leader angry, but even the normal disciples were furious. They really wanted to slice Lin Fan into pieces. How could there be such an arrogant person? He obviously didn't care about any of them at all. How despicable. He was so infuriating. Swordhead, do you think that young Master Lin's words are so infuriating? Zhao Lishan asked. They were all informed by young Master Lin that they didn't need to attack and just needed to look on. Swordhead replied simply. He didn't care about all of that, but that young Master Lin said that there wouldn't be any sects apart from Martial Path Mountain in the world. Would his Sword Palace be disbanded too? Just like what young Master Lin said to the Great Tribulation Temple. Preposterous. The Great Tribulation Temple sect leader had white hair. Don't think that just because the sect had to be bald, it was a lie. The sect leader in front of him had white hair and a white beard. His face was flushed red. He was infuriated by Lin Fan's words. This kid was just too arrogant. Rage points increased. Lin Fan was satisfied with the current situation. He personally attacked and hoped to totally infuriate him to gain a bunch of rage points. Who are you? The sect leader asked. Lin Fan said, speaking of which, we are neighbors. Martial Path Mountain sect leader, your Great Tribulation Temple is in the territory that my sect has occupied. I don't want to kill, so I advise you to pack up and disband your sect. Go and live a carefree life. The battle between sects isn't suitable for weaklings like you. The sect leader was stunned and then said coldly, you are the sect leader that rose up recently. The Great Tribulation Temple has no animosity with you, but now you are here to cause trouble. Aren't you looking down on us? Lin Fan waved his hands. It isn't that I don't care about your Great Tribulation Temple, but I don't know where your sect came from. It is just that your sect is in my territory, so just disband. Damn it. The surrounding disciples gritted their teeth. They were all disciples of the Great Tribulation Temple. They were bound together. Now that someone was provoking their sect, how could they take it? Arrogant kid, I will teach you a lesson. An elder was furious. It was obvious that he couldn't take it anymore. He jumped up from the crowd, and his robe swelled up. Power roared out, and the aura he gave off was really extraordinary. He looked like he was going to suppress you with one move. Elder, teach him a lesson. Okay, soon. When they saw that the elder was about to strike him, they were delighted and delighted. In an instant, the following scene appeared in their minds. The elder slapped him until he spat out fresh blood. Then he stepped on his face and hollered in rage. Scram! Wah! No. Some of the disciples imagined those scenes, and instantly they reached their peak. When the elder saw that Lin Fan didn't do anything, he was delighted. It seemed like he had thought too much. Lin Fan might have been strong, but he was definitely no match for him. Now that he attacked, Lin Fan was stunned and didn't react at all. Suddenly, pong! A person flew backward like a cannonball and smashed into a building in the distance. The elder who attacked Lin Fan was stuck in the ruins. His limbs went soft and his eyes rolled back. What was going on? What happened? No one knew what happened. The elder was about to suppress Lin Fan, but why did it suddenly change? Lin Fan flicked his clothes and said calmly, "Do not cherish the chance I gave you. I just don't want to attack the weak, but if you don't know what is good for you, I won't hold back. Don't worry, I don't fish and I don't act cool. I will let you experience it. If you think that you have the ability to fight me, then you can try." The moment he said this, the aura in the space became terrifying. Lin Fan stood there, but a shocking aura spread out. Gotcha! The space shook and dimension appeared. The ground cracked once more. Many buildings couldn't take it and collapsed right away. To the Great Tribulation Temple people, they were astonished. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 492. Lin Fan wasn't someone who liked to show off. He just needed to release his own aura. He was afraid that if he was not careful, he would crush the Great Tribulation Temple members to death. If they were really crushed to death, then wouldn't all his rage points go to waste? Young Master Lin is so strong, Swordhead exclaimed. In the past, he had seen many geniuses, but he looked at them as seniors and encouraged them. But facing young Master Lin, he treated them as equals. Even if they were much older than young Master Lin, they were treated as equals. Zhao Lishan said, "Young Master Lin is so young, and your strength has reached such a level. That is just unbelievable, and there isn't a second person in the world. The key is that a few months ago, young Master Lin wasn't even at Dao Realm, and wasn't even at Domain Realm. Now, you are at Dao Realm Stage 3, and your true combat strength exceeds that." Amazing? This is just too amazing. When the divinator heard their conversation, he didn't think much of it at the start. He just felt that the two of them were making a huge fuss. Wasn't it normal for sect leader Lin to be so strong? What was there to be surprised about? But when he heard the latter part of the story, the situation changed. What? The divinator was shocked like he had seen a ghost. Damn, are you serious? Sect leader Lin wasn't even at Dao Realm a few months ago, and now he is at Dao Realm Stage 3. Aren't you mistaken about one thing? The time needed to raise one Dao Realm stage wasn't so simple. He had never heard of one stage a year. He hadn't heard of one stage 2 years. Now, he was telling him that he crossed several realms in a few months. Moreover, there was an uncrossable gap between Domain Realm and Dao Realm. Some people would be stuck at that realm for their entire lives. It was basically impossible to break through from Domain Realm to Dao Realm. At that moment, the divinator was stunned. Something that he didn't even dare to think about appeared in his mind. Could it be that those with great luck were all so domineering? Even his cultivation base could increase at an unreasonably fast rate. But that didn't make sense. In the past, the Imperial Dynasty's luck was really strong. Even if it wasn't as good as sect leader Lin, it should have done something, right? But based on what he knew, he didn't cause much of a commotion. How could he compare to sect leader Lin? The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. At that moment, the people from Great Tribulation Temple felt as if their hearts were being suppressed by a heavy mountain. They couldn't even breathe. The buildings were severely damaged, and countless of them collapsed. The other party hadn't even made a move yet, but his aura was already so ferocious. The Great Tribulation Temple elders looked at Lin Fan in terror. Unknowingly, they were drenched in sweat. As for the normal disciples, they couldn't maintain their previous posture. He was crushed to the ground by Lin Fan's aura, just like a dead dog. As for the Great Tribulation Temple's sect leader, needless to say, he was completely stunned. If he hadn't experienced it for himself, he wouldn't have believed it. But now, after experiencing it for himself, he completely understood how big the gap between them was. How is it? Lin Fan asked indifferently. Those with slightly better brains would naturally understand how insurmountable the gap between them was. What exactly do you want? Asked the sect leader after a long moment of silence. Lin Fan sighed and felt like he was playing the lute to a cow. He made it really clear before. Why did it feel like there was a hole in their heads? Until now, they still didn't understand? Lin Fan said impatiently. Can't you all open your eyes and look around? Don't you know the situation now? I don't want to repeat myself. Think about it yourselves. What a bully. Some disciples pounded their chests and shouted. Their faces turned red. Rage points increased. As expected, only by killing a bunch of people could rage points increase crazily. He was very satisfied. This was how it should be. To the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader, they couldn't fight. Lin Fan revealed his strength, and that wasn't something they could go up against. They didn't even have the courage to fight him. Sect leader, what should we do? An elder asked with an ugly expression. The sect leader kept silent, and after a long while, he slowly opened his mouth. Do you all have confidence in suppressing him? The elders looked at the sect leader in shock. The light in their eyes seemed to be saying, Sect leader, stop joking. How can we fight like this? We asked you to see what you think. How would we dare to have any thoughts? The sect leader didn't continue to ask. Looking at their expressions, he knew the answer. Naturally, they had no confidence at all. Okay, let's go. Under the threat of absolute power, the sect leader had no choice. Where there was life, there was hope. Sect leader. Sect leader. When everyone heard the sect leader's decision, they were all filled with disbelief. Some disciples were unwilling. Sect leader, we are not afraid of death. Let's fight them. Right, let's fight them. These disciples were young and were hot-blooded. They were rash and would fight if they were unhappy. Who was afraid of who? At the same time, they were extremely confident in the sect leader. They felt that as long as the sect leader was there was nothing that couldn't be solved. The elders looked at those disciples and only had one thought in their hearts. Your lives may be cheap, but our lives are very precious. It wasn't easy for them to cultivate to their current realm. They spent so much time and put in so much hard work. As for normal disciples, how long have they cultivated? If they die, then so be it. Anyway, they would just be like this for the rest of their lives. All of you shut up. The sect leader hollered in rage. He then looked at Lin Fan. We are not as skilled as them. Great Tribulation Temple deserves a tribulation. Since that is the case, Great Tribulation Temple will disband. All disciples, pack up and prepare to leave. When he said those words, his heart was really dripping blood. Great Tribulation Temple was his blood, sweat, and tears. Now, this fellow who came from who knows where messed it up. Young Master Lin, actually, there's no need to make things so problematic. Zhao Lishan said. They had been here for a period of time and didn't do much. They just watched young Master Lin argue with them. That was a waste of time. If he was the one to solve it, maybe he wouldn't need to waste too much time to solve it all. Lin Fan shook his head. You don't understand. Zhao Lishan had nothing to say. He really didn't understand. If he did, then that would be great. Naturally, Lin Fan wouldn't tell him that he needed rage points. Very quickly, the Great Tribulation Temple disciples packed up. They turned their heads 3 times with each step they took. They looked at the sect that they were about to part with and step onto the path of wandering. They felt really annoyed. Many pairs of furious eyes looked at Lin Fan and gave off a furious glow. They were really furious. They were bullied and didn't even have a chance to fight back. They were really unwilling to accept it. Although they didn't have many rage points, they won in terms of numbers, so it wasn't bad. Sect leader Lin, I will leave Great Tribulation Temple to you. The sect leader looked at Lin Fan and cupped his fists. But no matter how he looked at it, he felt like Lin Fan was really angry. Thinking about it, it was normal. He was bullied to such an extent, so if he acted like nothing was wrong, wouldn't that be too fake? A large group of disciples followed behind the sect leader. Some of them had thought it through. So what if they left for a short while? They were just biding their time. When they were strong in the future, they could just charge back. Lin Fan had a smile on his face. He didn't want to kill these people. They were too young and had a long road ahead of them. If they were too weak, then the rage points would be too little. This was why he liked to raise fish and raise them until they grew bigger. In the future, he would be able to use them again. So, now, unless he really had to kill them, he wouldn't be ruthless to some people. Okay, I will send all of you off, Lin Fan said. The moment he said this, Lin Fan waved his arm, and a dimensional tunnel appeared in the air. When the sect leader saw this, he was shocked and had a bad feeling. What do you mean? Lin Fan said. It is too obvious if so many of you leave together. For your safety, I will help all of you. Let's go. To the surrounding disciples, they felt like their bodies were uncontrollably flying into the dimensional tunnel. They screamed. They were swallowed up by the tunnel. As for where they went, Lin Fan didn't know. Maybe they were at the ends of the world. You bastard. The sect leader was furious. If he split the disciples up, then he would be destroying the foundations of Great Tribulation Temple. Who knew if he was blinded by rage? But he actually slashed towards Lin Fan viciously. Pung! Lin Fan raised his palm, and with a light slap, he slapped him into the dimensional tunnel. You thief, I won't let you off. The sect leader hollered. Slowly, his voice disappeared. Everything returned to normal, like nothing had happened at all. Have a good trip. Live well with your hatred towards me. Lin Fan waved his hand and then looked at the empty Great Tribulation Temple. Next, I will continue to search for factions in the area. With the current situation, I might attract attention in just a short while. Things developed a little too quickly. The key was that Lin Fan's methods were violent. As long as he faced a faction, he would chase them away. This caused everyone to be filled with rage and leave their homes. The Great Tribulation Temple sect leader traveled through the dimensional tunnel. He didn't dare to touch or move as he was afraid that the surrounding dimensional power would rip him to shreds. There was a light in front. He felt his body become light, and the scenes in front of him made him feel lost. Where's this? People walked around, and many pairs of eyes stared at him. He thought that he was a Great Tribulation Temple disciple, but when he looked closely, he realized that he wasn't. Who dares to come to Nine Demon Hall? A voice that struck the depths of his soul was transmitted. To him, he felt like a small boat that could capsize at any time in the turbulent waves. Expert. That was the voice of an expert. Damn guy. Where did you send me to? Even if it was a place with few people, why did you send me to such a dangerous place? A person walked over. In the eyes of the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader, it was like an endless blood ocean surging towards him. Pata! The Great Tribulation Temple sect leader sat on the ground paralyzed. His body turned cold. He was finished. Chapter 493. A few days later. That night, within the room. As expected, only hard work will give me rewards. Although I have a small support system, I have never been a lazy person. I have my current achievements step by step. Lin Fan didn't study much and didn't know what the word shameless meant. Rage points, 2215484. Not only did the Great Tribulation Temple provide 2 million rage points, but many other small factions also provided a lot. Although during this period of time, he was more overbearing and caused many people to lose their homes. But he had no choice. Forget it, he didn't think so much and just focused on improving his cultivation technique. Internal and external cultivation, Tao Essence and Tao Body, both reached stage 3. His cultivation technique was slowly used up, but it was still enough to improve. Consumed 10,000 rage points. Heaven End Basics. To raise a Tao Realm cultivation technique, to return to true required 210,000. It was so good to have a small support system. If he cultivated it himself, to raise a Tao realm cultivation technique to the highest realm, the time needed wouldn't be so simple. Forming Tao patterns. Now, he had 97 Tao patterns. In Tao realm stage 3, he was really overpowered. There was no one who could form 97 Tao patterns at Tao realm stage 3. With the small support system, all of that wasn't a problem. Martial Path Mountain. Swordhead said, "Brother Zhao, young Master Lin has developed too quickly and chased away many factions. Maybe in just a short time, the 4 alliances will notice the situation here." Zhao Lishan nodded, and a worried expression appeared on his face. That is indeed the case. It is okay if normal sects notice, but what I am afraid of is the top sects noticing. In terms of peak combat strength, they were much weaker. He had mentioned this to young Master Lin before, but young Master Lin was really casual about it. It was obvious that he didn't care much about it. He admitted that young Master Lin was really strong. But compared to peak experts, the gap was huge. "Let's ask the divinator," Swordhead said. The two of them went to search for one another. In the end, they found traces of the divinator on a mountain peak. He stood there and looked towards Martial Path Mountain, looking at everything that happened there. There was no change in his expression, but there was a hint of worry between his brows. "I heard that the divinator can seek luck and avoid calamity. What do you think Martial Path Mountain will do in the future?" Swordhead and Zhao Lishan appeared on the mountain peak, and Swordhead asked directly. Zhao Lishan didn't know the divinator and was a little suspicious. Are there really people in this world who can tell good from bad? Why does it feel so surreal? The divinator turned his head and said, "Calamity, huge calamity. Martial Path Mountain is in trouble, and someone has to die." "But that is impossible. Now, don't ask the Heaven's Fate Master if he could see it clearly. Instead, ask him if he was still in a daze. How could something like this happen when the luck was so dense? This was simply impossible. What exactly went wrong?" What he didn't know was Lin Fan's luck was indeed thick, but he couldn't help himself from courting death. Not only that, he was a little devilish as well. It was normal for him to have some twists and turns. "No solution?" Swordmaster frowned and asked. He believed what the divinator said. The divinator nodded. There is no solution for now." At that moment, the divinator's mind was filled with a battle between the heavens and man. Leave? Not leave. His personality was that if he knew that danger was heading his way, he would definitely flee. He wouldn't stay at all. But now, there was a battle in his heart. This was a rare chance. One had to admit that sect leader Lin's luck was the most terrifying. Maybe he would face danger, but he would always win. As long as he stayed and got through this, he would definitely soar into the sky and be covered by luck. But what he was most afraid of was that he would be the one to die in this calamity. Everything depends on one's effort. Some things can't be decided by the heavens. Zhao Lishan scoffed at such things and looked down on them. Swordmaster said softly, "Brother Zhao, there are some things that you have to believe in." Zhao Lishan smiled and shook his head. He didn't say anything more. Swordmaster told him about the divinator's background and legend. Although he was impressed, he always believed that man could defeat the heavens and that destiny could be defied. The so-called seeking luck and avoiding calamity was just a form of escape. "Zhao Lishan, you can choose not to believe me, but you have to believe in my ability. You were someone who was going to die, but due to some reason, you survived. Someone changed your destiny for you." The divinator said. Zhao Lishan was stunned, and then he laughed out loud. "Interesting. Do I need the heavens to decide whether or not I will live?" The divinator shook his head and sighed. "Ordinary people don't understand the will of the heavens. Now that I picked up a stone, I didn't think that I couldn't go against the will of the heavens, so I naturally threw it away. But when I thought about it, I had to go against the will of the heavens. So I crushed the stone and its fate changed. But I thought that I had changed my destiny, but I didn't know that I had just fallen into another cycle." Swordmaster nodded his head. The divinator's words made sense, and he understood. But Zhao Lishan closed his eyes and didn't want to say anything more. He felt like there was no point in saying anything more. This person was really good at saying weird things. Maybe what he said was right, but he would never be able to make him believe him. He only believed that there was nothing that couldn't be changed. If Zhang Tianshan heard what the divinator said, he would definitely beat him up. What the hell was he talking about? At the same time, he understood why he was in such a bad state. Although he knew how to brag, he didn't do it well. This was a deep look of disdain from a bronze-level expert toward a king-level expert. At that moment, the divinator wanted to leave, but suddenly he stopped. His expression changed, and his eyes were filled with shock. He blurted out, "How is that possible?" Swordhead saw the change in the divinator's expression and didn't know what had happened. He asked curiously what happened. The divinator didn't reply to Swordhead's question. He looked towards Marshall Path Mountain. It changed. Suddenly, it changed. To the divinator, Marshall Path Mountain, which was filled with luck, suddenly had a sense of danger. But just as he was about to leave, he realized that there was a shocking change in Marshall Path Mountain. It's gone. The danger has actually disappeared, and the luck has become even thicker. How is that possible? He muttered to himself. This was an insult to his 100 years of experience. When Swordhead heard what the divinator said, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the danger had disappeared. That was good. As long as there was no danger, it was fine. Zhao Lishan giggled. He said that there was danger, and then he said that there was no danger at all. His words were like farts. He instantly lost interest. He left right away. Within the room, 10 more Dao patterns. I have finally reached Dao Realm Stage 4. Lin Fan took in a deep breath and felt really good. When his Dao patterns broke 100, he felt a terrifying power boiling in his body. Maybe this was the breaking point. Anyone who wanted to increase the number of Dao patterns to 100 would encounter this obstacle. But to Lin Fan, this wasn't a problem at all. With the small support system, as long as you had enough rage points, you wouldn't need to worry about too much, and you would be able to instantly raise them. Dao Realm Stage 4, Astronomical Phenomenon. It was a true mystique and secret technique, and he was a dual cultivator. He really did not know how powerful the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth would be. To him, cultivation was just so simple. He could fight with those strongest 9-star generals or the true experts of the top sections. He pushed the door open. "Go Z, I am hungry," Lin Fan said. He didn't show too much excitement. So be it if his cultivation increased. Actually, there was nothing to be happy about. He was used to it. If he acted excited each time he improved, then after a year, he would be so excited that his heart wouldn't be able to take it. Go Z, who was on standby, ran towards the kitchen. There were many people on Marshall Path Mountain. Naturally, he wouldn't prepare food for everyone. Other people's food would be passed to other disciples. Lin Fan chose a purple faith line. That was definitely Cousins. Power transfer. Using the power of faith, Cousins' cultivation reached Dao Realm Stage 3. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader landed in 9 Evil Spirit Hall's territory. He wasn't from the 4 alliances, but if he fell into the hands of Evil Alliance, he would definitely end up in a tragic state. For some reason, he thought about the humiliation he suffered and started to cry. 9 Evil Spirit Hall didn't even attack, and he cried. This made Evil Spirit Old Ancestor think back to himself. He had faced such a sad matter. Perhaps it was because of the same experience. Thus, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor didn't do anything to him. He gave him a chance to cry. If it was unimportant, then it wouldn't be too late to kill the other party. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader couldn't stop talking about his experiences. Someone came and chased all of them away. He even sent their disciples away through the dimension tunnel, and they didn't know where they were. At the start, he didn't feel anything. But slowly, the situation became a little off. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor recalled something. That feeling, that situation was really familiar. He asked him whether or not that person was called Lin Fan. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader shook his head and said that he didn't know his name. He just said that his surname was Lin, and he called himself Sect Leader Lin. The moment he heard that his surname was Lin, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor raised his head, and his tears flowed down uncontrollably. When the surrounding disciples saw evil spirit old ancestors' expression. They were so frightened that they didn't dare to say a word. What was going on? What was going on with evil spirit old ancestor? Why did he have such an expression? Did something happen? Not only were the disciples stunned, but even the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader was stunned. Are you crazy? I'm talking about my tragic experience, so why are you crying? Suddenly, haha, evil spirit old ancestor laughed out loud. A vicious glow appeared in his eyes. I have finally found you. Shortly after, evil spirit old ancestor lowered his head and looked at the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader. His face was dark and sunken. Tell me where he is. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader was stunned. He only had one thought in his heart. That was that the expert in front of him had a grudge with that person. Chapter 494. What made Gozi happiest was personally witnessing young Master destroy all the things he made. Moreover, he was still reminiscing about it. Cultivation wasn't important to Gozi. As long as he could make good food for young Master, that was the happiest thing. As for cultivation, it was still okay. He could find all sorts of rare ingredients for young Master. Gozi, this dish is not bad. I have never seen it before. He used his chopsticks to pick up a golden mushroom. There was still some soup on it, and it looked really delicious. Young Master, I found this when I was searching for ingredients in the mountains. I don't need to add any ingredients, and it tastes really delicious. It melts in the mouth. Lin Fan acknowledged. He had high hopes for Go Zi's talent in finding ingredients. As for Zhang Tianshan and the others, they could only watch. Even if they drooled all over the ground, they wouldn't be able to eat it. As for Nine Demon, he felt really comfortable. He squatted beside Lin Fan's feet like a puppy. He raised his 9 heads and wagged his tail. Occasionally, he would take a bite. Not long later, young Master, what is wrong? Go Zi saw that young Master was stunned and thought that there was something wrong with the food. Zhang Tianshan and the others took a look and stopped paying attention. What an overbearing fellow. No matter what, he was the deputy sect leader, so he had to be treated better. Lin Fan kept silent for a moment and shook his head. Nothing, I just feel like something is about to happen. Go Zi felt that young Master was under a lot of pressure, which was why he had such thoughts. It seemed like he had to make some soup for young Master to heal up his body and also relieve his mental pressure. In the distance, since the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader knew that evil spirit old ancestor was enemies with the person who chased them out of the sect, he became more active. As long as Lin Fan asked, he would tell him everything he knew. With his own strength, he couldn't beat him at all. This was why letting an expert attack was the wisest choice. Evil spirit old ancestor. Is that person really there? This time, not only was evil spirit old ancestor working alone, but he also gathered many people. One of them was the heaven-covering demon sect leader. Lin Fan went to their sect to provoke them and caused hatred. Thus, after evil spirit old ancestor confirmed Lin Fan's location, he headed to heaven-covering demon sect right away to inform them. How could they take the humiliation they suffered? So, it was the same as he thought. Heaven-covering demon sect leader personally came out and said that he was going to grind his bones to dust and smash him into meat paste. His methods were really cruel. When Great Tribulation Temple sect leader heard this, he felt really good. At the same time, in the face of these experts who were once unreachable, he put down his pride and willingly acted as a bootlicker. He only hoped to leave a good impression in the other party's eyes. Everyone, this person is Lin Wani's son. Even though his cultivation base isn't at the peak, it is still shocking. To be able to reach this realm at such a young age, if we allow him to continue developing, he will be a disaster for us. And now, I can clearly tell you that it's right there. There's no mistaking it. Evil spirit old ancestor had been suppressing his anger for a long time. The blood lotus was the flesh of his heart. Ever since he lost the blood lotus, he thought about it day and night. He was always in a daze, and when he thought of the pain, he would secretly cry. He knew his place. He had fought with Lin Fan before, and he wasn't his opponent. Therefore, he found an expert. Now, there were many of them. Of course, the strongest one was the heaven-covering demon sect leader who was at stage 7. This kid came to heaven-covering demon sect to cause trouble and humiliated my kid. He deserves to be killed. Heaven-covering demon sect leader's face was dark and sunken. A fierce glow shone in his eyes. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader agreed. He does deserve to die. But the moment he said this, Lin Fan's gaze caused his body to turn cold. He shivered and didn't have any thoughts at all. To the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader, he felt like he was innocent. He was a victim, so couldn't he be more friendly to him? If one was weak, one had no rights at all. Let's go. I can't wait to see that kid's tragic end. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was so furious with Lin Fan that he didn't want to waste any more time. Martial Path Mountain. The divinator's eyelids jumped. Weird, why is my eyelid twitching so quickly? He rubbed his eyes, feeling a little flustered. Could it be that something is about to happen? Suddenly, the divinator raised his head and looked into the distance. He sensed a few shocking auras moving quickly, and they were heading towards Martial Path Mountain. Was it Hong Long? The space around exploded. Several people appeared in the sky above Martial Path Mountain. The aura that they gave off was really terrifying, and even the space around them was shattered. Lin Fan screamed out. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered in rage. His voice was like thunder that buzzed. Instantly, a light barrier covered Martial Path Mountain, and several places around shone brightly. These were the formations that Zhang Tianshan laid out. When they sensed attacks, they would automatically activate to defend. Although this was just a casual holler from Evil Spirit Old Ancestor, it was filled with rage. The first barrier was broken. Shortly after, the second barrier shone and blocked Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's shout. They are killing their way to our doorstep. The divinator was astonished. He knew that Martial Path Mountain would be in danger. So, he wasn't wrong, and there really was. But didn't they say that everything was fine? How did this happen? The divinator started to doubt himself. Did his standards drop, and he really see wrongly? Swordhead and Zhao Lishan rose into the air and looked at the few people in the distance. It is the heaven-covering demon sect leader. Swordhead saw him right away because heaven-covering demon sect was really strong. They were even stronger than Sword Palace. After all, his cultivation was at Dao Realm Stage 7. Even the top sects had a gap. Some top sects only had Dao Realm Stage 5 or 6, but some had Dao Realm Stage 7. Before Evil Spirit Old Ancestor saw Lin Fan, he definitely wouldn't stop. Lin Fan scram out to die. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor had an explosive temper. He felt like he was someone who had been conned, and the rage in his heart was caused by Lin Fan. Martial Path Mountain. Lin Fan laid there and enjoyed the happiness of life. Right as he was about to rest, he was shocked by a loud voice. Who is so bold to actually fight their way to our doorstep? Lin Fan got up. Go Zi was unhappy. Young master, let me deal with them. You are no match for them. What a joke. If he let Go Zi face them, then he would have to collect Go Zi's corpse. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was still shouting like he wasn't going to stop until he saw Lin Fan. Swordhead and Zhao Lishan didn't dare to attack. Swordhead was the one who told Zhao Lishan that this was the heaven-covering demon sect leader. He was at Dao Realm Stage 7 and was much stronger than them. Even if the two of them worked together, they would be crushed. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor saw that Lin Fan didn't come out and was furious once more. Lin Fan, if you don't scram out, then I will wipe out your mountain. The moment he said this, a voice spread out from below. Okay, why are you shouting? Lin Fan walked out impatiently. When he saw Evil Spirit Old Ancestor, he was stunned. So, it is you. It seems like I didn't give you a deep impression last time. You. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was so furious that flames shot out from his body. The hand that was pointing at Lin Fan was so furious that it was trembling. Good, you are stubborn. Let's see how you're going to do that today. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was really confident, because the people who came were all experts, especially the heaven-covering demon sect leader. He was a Dao Realm Stage 7 expert. Oh, so you're all familiar people. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader, you really are smart. You knew that you couldn't do it, so you went to find helpers. You even found Evil Alliance. Not bad, not bad at all. Lin Fan understood the situation right away. Apart from him, who else could it be? If it was a while ago, it would have been really problematic to face these people, and he would have even had to pay a price. But now, he didn't fear anything. So what if they were Tao Realm Stage 7 experts? Move aside. Just at that moment, heaven-covering demon sect leader didn't say any nonsense. He held the celestial slaying spear, and his aura exploded. He then slashed towards Lin Fan. His attacks were vicious, and his aura was really strong. Young Master Lin, let me. Zhao Lishan exclaimed and wanted to block that move for young Master Lin. After all, he was a Tao Realm Stage 7 expert, and young Master Lin was only a Tao Realm Stage 3. So how could he fight him? But shortly after, something that he didn't expect happened. Lin Fan disappeared from the spot and appeared in the distance. He clenched his fingers and punched towards the celestial slaying spear. You overestimate yourself. Heaven-covering demon sect leader scoffed coldly. He was actually so dumb to fight him head-on. Was there something wrong with his head? But shortly after, a shocking change occurred. Peng, Honglong. The two powers clashed with one another, and a bright light exploded. At the same time, a terrifying shockwave spread out. The shockwave was really strong. It caused the sky to split open. Zhang Tianshan's usefulness was totally used at that moment. The formation that he laid out started to shine and heat up, forming many circles of light to block the shockwave. How is that possible? Heaven-covering demon sect leader was astonished. The moment they clashed, he sensed that the power that Lin Fan used was really shocking. It didn't look like something that someone at Tao Realm Stage 3 could do. Maybe he didn't know that Lin Fan was already at Tao Realm Stage 4. When he really exploded out, he could use the strength of someone at Tao Realm Stage 7. This evil spirit old ancestor shouted the fiercest. But when he saw Lin Fan and the heaven-covering demon sect leader fight, he was totally stunned. Damn, when did this kid become so terrifying? Not only was he stunned, but so was everyone else. Zhao Lishan and Swordhead looked at one another. They only had one thought in their hearts. Had young Master Lin's strength reached such a terrifying level? Lin Fan clenched his fists. That feeling just now felt so good. Chapter 495. Still okay. Dual cultivation, Tao essence, and Tao body reaching Tao realm stage 4. This was something that no one had ever done in the past, and no one would be able to do. How did this fellow become so strong? Evil spirit old ancestor felt like he was totally blind. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he wouldn't have dared to believe it. The last time they had a conflict, he was just SOSO. But now, he was actually able to fight against the heaven-covering demon sect leader who was at Tao Realm Stage 7. Lin Fan floated in the air. 9 Demon turned into a streak of light and squatted on Lin Fan's shoulder. What are all of you thinking? But forget it. Since you are all here, then let's have a good fight. After dealing with all of you, it is time for me to conquer the world. You, and you all of you be careful. If your sect is in my territory, you'll be chased away. Lin Fan's words caused the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader to feel really conflicted. He thought back to his own experience, and it was just so tragic and unbearable. Lin Fan, the few seniors are here, and you still dare to be arrogant. You are so evil, and you will definitely pay a heavy price. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader hollered in rage. With a few experts here, what was there for him to be afraid of? Naturally, he used their strength to show that he was fearless as the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader. He was going to fight them head-on. Instantly, he was terrified by Lin Fan's gaze. His face turned white and cold sweat dripped down from his forehead. His heart was beating fast. He gathered his courage. What kind of gaze is that? Did I say anything wrong? The few seniors are going to help the heavens and kill you. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader panicked from Lin Fan's gaze, but he forced himself to calm down and scolded. Evil spirit old ancestor frowned. It wasn't that the Great Tribulation Temple sect leader was annoyed, but the kid was just too arrogant. Even at such a time, he was still annoyed. Young Master Lin, Swordhead, and I will help you. Zhao Lishan's expression was solemn. Although they weren't as strong as the Alliance's strongest, they weren't weak either. Although young Master Lin was strong, it would be tough for him to fight one against many. Lin Fan waved his hands. No need, leave it to me. They know that I am on Martial Path Mountain and still dare to cause trouble. That only means that they are confident. I won't back down from such provocations. Ever since his strength had increased, even his words had become much more forceful. If it was in the past, even though he would have said a few words, he wouldn't have been so unyielding. The Martial Path Mountain disciples had never seen their sect leader fight an enemy. Right now, they were facing a very strong enemy. But our sect leader's words were so domineering, so shocking. The blood in our bodies was already boiling. Zhuyao, let's fight together. Instantly, 9 Demon turned into liquid and merged into Lin Fan's body. Buzz. The power was burning and expanding, causing the surrounding void to tremble. Pucci. Lin Fan could feel that the power within his body had been dormant for a long time now, as though it could not wait to burst forth. The third form of insect transformation. 9 Demon's power was further released. The muscles on his back twitched as if something was about to break out of his body. Pucci. It broke open. A curved blade stretched out from his back. White bone spikes gave off a cold glow. One after another, it made Lin Fan look really vicious. His limbs swelled up and a thin layer of armor appeared beneath his skin. This form should be called the Bug Battlesuit. Hong! The power in his body spread out, forming a shocking shockwave that covered everyone. This power. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor took a step back. He understood that he was no match for Lin Fan. The aura that spread out was just too strong. He could only rely on heaven covering Old Demon for this battle. Feng Poliu, who was in Martial Path Mountain, raised his head and had a weird expression on his face. Lin Fan and 9 Demon's chemistry had reached a level that even he couldn't understand. If people from Insect Valley saw these scenes, maybe they would be as shocked as him. Lin Fan looked at them. Now come on. I think all of you have waited for a long time, so let's not talk any nonsense. It is just a waste of time. The moment he said this, there was a pump. Lin Fan instantly disappeared from the spot like he had disappeared into thin air. Where is he? Demon Refining Old Ancestor was shocked. Lin Fan was so quick that even he couldn't find any traces of him. He was at Dao Realm Stage 5, and he felt that he wasn't weak. He was an Old Ancestor in Evil Alliance. This time, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor dragged him over to deal with this Dao Realm Stage 3 kid. He felt like he was making a mountain out of a molehill, but now he felt like he was making a mountain out of a molehill. Suddenly, Demon Refining Old Ancestor's body turned cold. This was the feeling that one would have when danger arrived. Not good. The Demon Refinement Ancestor roared and retreated quickly, smashing through one dimension after another. Shortly after, the space around him trembled and illusory faces appeared in all directions. They inhaled and sealed the space around them. He could only do that to protect himself in the middle. As long as Lin Fan stepped in, no matter how fast he was, he would be able to see where he was. But at that moment, the situation wasn't right. With Akacha, the illusionary face shattered and his hair stood on their ends. A cold glow struck him. Lin Fan didn't sneak attack and instead attacked him head-on. Jerk, do you really think that I'm easy to bully? Demon Refining Old Ancestor hollered in rage. He grabbed towards Lin Fan with his Heaven and Earth Demon hand. His aura was extraordinary and it felt like the entire area was under his control. Dao Realm Stage 5 was really strong. Even in the 4 alliances, he was an expert amongst experts. In the top sects, he was a peak existence. Shwa, shwa. 1 cold glow, 2 cold glows, and then they intersected to form a giant net. In the blink of an eye, everything became calm once more. Lin Fan appeared. He didn't look at Demon Refining Old Ancestor, but at Heaven covering Old Demon. Don't you think that you are stupid to come to find trouble with me without understanding the situation? At that moment, demon refining old ancestor lowered his head and looked at his body. There was nothing wrong with him, and joy appeared on his face. He hollered in rage, "Kid, what is the meaning of this? This is your Kacha." Before he finished, many wounds appeared on demon refining old ancestor's body. The cracks became bigger and bigger, and with a scream, demon refining old ancestor was split into hundreds of pieces. It would probably take a long time to piece them together into a complete body. Uproar. How did this happen? Evil spirit old ancestor's face was ashen white. He didn't dare to believe what he was seeing. Demon refining old ancestor, who was at Tao Realm Stage 5, actually died just like that. Impossible, that was definitely impossible. How could the difference in strength be so terrifying? Even if he wanted to kill demon refining old ancestor, he would need to use some methods. Lin Fan's arm shook and a white bone blade appeared from his joints. He then retracted it into his body like nothing had happened at all. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader nearly fell to the ground. His body was covered in a cold sweat. When he saw such a terrifying scene, he was really unable to keep calm. How is this kid so strong? That fellow was at Tao Realm Stage 5. Did he even know what Stage 5 meant? That was a realm that many people wanted to reach, but were unable to reach in their entire lives. Now he was killed so easily. That was just too unbelievable. Who lives and who dies will depend on the heavens. I am here. Lin Fan turned into a streak of light and headed towards heaven covering old demon. He wanted to see the gap between him and heaven covering old demon. Of course, he believed that with his own strength, there shouldn't be any difference. Zhao Lishan was stunned. Young Master Lin has become stronger. Naturally, Zhu Shun was the most shocked. He had seen young Master Lin's strength jump. During the U City battle, young Master Lin wasn't so strong. In just a few months, he actually reached such a level. If Master Lin knew about this, who knew what he would think? Divergent. This was definitely a divergent. No one in the world could raise their cultivation so quickly. That was just impossible. For some reason, Zhu Shun had a bold idea in his heart. That young Master Lin might really be able to suppress all unstable factors in the world alone. Aya, how could I have such a daring idea? This is something impossible in the past. Okay? How long? Heaven and earth shook. It was as if someone had swallowed medicine, and the energy currents became really violent. The shockwaves from Lin Fan and heaven covering old demon's battle were just terrifying. Each time the two of them clashed, it would cause an intense tremor. Not bad. No wonder you dare to cause trouble in Marshall Path Mountain. Lin Fan's power surged forwards like a flood. Each fist, each palm caused the surrounding space to shatter. At the same time, a sharp blade would pierce forwards. Heaven covering old demon wasn't easy to deal with either. He was shocked by Lin Fan's strength. He was so young, but he was so strong. Were the people from the Four Alliances fools? They actually allowed such a potential danger to become a true danger. When Lin Fan and heaven covering old demon fought, he didn't forget about evil spirit old ancestor. Everyone had a share, and he couldn't just take care of one person. Evil spirit old ancestor's face turned white. He faced death several times, but each time he was safe. The first time, he thought that he was strong enough, but he realized that that wasn't the case. That was because each time Lin Fan left injuries on his body, he would smile in disdain. Evil spirit old ancestor lowered his head and looked at the wound on his chest. Just as the kid appeared in front of him and punched him, in the blink of an eye, a sharp blade stretched out from his arm and sliced his chest. The pain caused him to wake up. He knew that Lin Fan didn't want to kill him. Otherwise, he would have been sliced into two. When one reached Tao Realm Stage 6, one would have an undying body and wouldn't die so easily. But if Lin Fan wanted to kill him, it wouldn't be difficult at all. How did this happen? He didn't have such a feeling a while ago. Chapter 496. Heaven covering old demon's expression was really solemn. The celestial slaying spear in his hand was really fierce. The tip of the spear pointed into the air, and many ripples spread out. The sky couldn't handle such strength, and it was on the verge of being destroyed. The situation between Lin Fan and heaven-covering Old Demon was currently on the same level. But for some reason, Lin Fan felt that if he had time, he would be able to suppress heaven-covering Old Demon. He relied on the unlimited power of the small support system. If he continued to fight without any losses, who could take it? Lin Fan was probably the only one who could endure it. Astronomical phenomenon. Lin Fan hollered. After reaching Dao Realm Stage 4 and having the ability of Stage 4, he really wanted to try it out. How long? The sky shook and a shocking power drew the area. Lightning surged in the sky, and each bolt was as thick as a thigh. They were like mini lightning dragons. Gotcha! The ground shattered, and it couldn't handle Lin Fan's strength at all. Instantly, with Lin Fan at the center, a strong storm exploded. Lin Fan's body continued to grow taller. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 100,000 feet. Very quickly, his entire upper body was in the clouds. He was so tall that one couldn't even look up to him. Normal Dao Realm Stage 4 people could only reach 1,000 feet when they used astronomical phenomenon. When one's strength reached the first stage, it was normal for one to reach 100,000 feet. Terrifying. Zhao Lishan and the others raised their heads and looked. Maybe they would never forget this scene. Young Master Lin was just too strong, so strong that it sent chills down their spines. Come, the battle has just begun. Lin Fan opened his mouth. His voice was really loud, and it spread throughout the area. He raised his leg and landed. How long? The ground cracked and was instantly destroyed. A strong shockwave spread out and destroyed everything around. Pung pung. Evil spirit old ancestor's robe swelled up, and his long hair danced in the wind. His face was filled with terror, and he was totally stunned. He didn't know what to do. Lin Fan clenched his fingers into a fist and punched out of the ground. Even before his fist had reached the ground, the winds and clouds in the world were stirred up into a frenzy, turning into a devastating storm. How long? The fist landed, and the ground split apart, forming a bottomless hole. Magma exploded from the ground like the fist had pierced through the earth's core. Pung! Bang! Evil spirit old ancestor didn't touch the fist, but the power that exploded out was like a hammer that smashed into their bodies. Damn it! How did it become like this? He was extremely indignant in his heart. This should not be the case. But the current situation made him unable to resist. How could he improve so quickly? This was simply impossible. A world-shaking power. Ordinary people are unable to contend against it, Zhao Lishan said. He was deeply shocked by the strength that Lin Fan had displayed. At this moment, heaven-covering Old Demon and the others used their lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, and their bodies turned to the same size as Lin Fan. Lin Fan's body grew bigger, but his speed wasn't slow at all. Striding forward, he smashed through everything, causing the void to explode and shatter into pieces. Watch my fist. If someone once said, "Have you ever seen a fist as big as a mountain?" he would definitely be scolded angrily. Was there something wrong with his brain? How could he have such a fist? But now all of this had really happened. The difference between heaven-covering Old Demon and Lin Fan in terms of physical body cultivation was like the difference between heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. Pung! An intense clash occurred between the two of them. Heaven and earth split apart and the sky shattered. Everything in the surroundings was annihilated by the terrifying power. Great Tribulation Temple sect leader started to doubt himself. Why did he have to return? Why was he so terrifying? As time went on, the battle became more and more intense. The battle between Lin Fan and heaven-covering Old Demon wasn't something that they could interfere in. To heaven-covering Old Demon, he felt really bad. He wasn't able to take down this kid, and they were even on the same level. To him, this was an insult. Just thinking about it made his heart feel like it was about to explode. Pucci, heaven-covering Old Demon, had many deep wounds on his body. Fresh blood flowed down like a waterfall. But very quickly, The wounds healed, and there weren't even any marks left. Damn kid. He knew the kid's cultivation. Dao Realm Stage 4. But he had the aura of someone at Dao Realm Stage 7. At the same time, he felt a chill down his spine. If this kid continued to develop, the outcome would be catastrophic. One day, he would become an uncontrollable existence. Shua! At that moment, the heaven and earth roared. Time seemed to have stopped, and everything became really silent. When Lin Fan sensed that, he was shocked and actually felt a sense of danger. Clang! Heaven-covering old demon held the celestial slaying spear, and his aura surged. At the same time, it turned physical, and the power of heaven and earth gathered onto the spear. At the same time, many Dao patterns spread out from his body and wrapped around one another. Each Dao pattern represented a combat technique, and at that moment, all of them were gathered together. It was as if someone had brought them together. Dao Realm Stage 7. Dao returned to 1. Shortly after, heaven-covering old demon moved. He wasn't fast, but he wasn't slow either. Celestial slaying spear broke through space and time. There weren't any fancy techniques, and it was just a simple move. It became faster and faster. In the end, the celestial slaying spear turned into a streak of light and struck. Lin Fan felt a terrifying suppressive power strike him. The surrounding space was locked down, and the celestial slaying spear got closer and closer. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him. How long? A bright light covered the sky, and a circular blade spread out. The wind exploded, and it felt like the space was being sliced into two. He should be dead, right? Evil spirit old ancestor was stunned. Heaven-covering old demon's move could be said to have surpassed everything. If God blocked him, he would kill him. Who could block it? But he wasn't too sure. To him, Lin Fan shouldn't have existed. He was someone that one couldn't understand, and no one knew what the outcome would be. Suddenly, Lin Fan's voice spread out from the light. Very strong. Evil spirit old ancestor's expression changed. How was that possible? Not only was evil spirit old ancestor filled with disbelief, but even heaven-covering old demon didn't dare to believe it. Even if his spear couldn't kill Lin Fan, it definitely wasn't something that could be easily blocked. The light dissipated. Lin Fan's body appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Lin Fan used his palm as a shield to block the strike. But the price he paid was that his palm was pierced. To Lin Fan, this move was tough to block, and it was impossible to dodge. The damage that he would have to take would be unknown, so it was best if he pierced his palm. Of course, more importantly, he had to fight him in close combat. Heaven-covering old demon frowned. He shook his wrist, and the celestial slaying spear spun crazily. It formed a terrifying spinning force and wanted to destroy Lin Fan's entire arm. Clang! Lin Fan reached out with his perfect hand and grabbed the celestial slaying spear. He wanted to pull it over. Naturally, heaven-covering old demon wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. He didn't move his hand, but his giant body smashed towards Lin Fan. Good timing. There was a Poochie. Lin Fan pulled out his hand that was pierced through and used the blood demon reversal technique to heal himself up. Hata! He grabbed the celestial slaying spear with both hands like he was having a tug of war with heaven-covering old demon. Rage appeared on heaven-covering old demon's face. He wanted to retract the celestial slaying spear, but the kid was a little strong, and he was actually unable to do so. Naturally, he couldn't let go now. He definitely couldn't let go of the celestial slaying spear, so he could only fight him head-on. Lin Fan felt much better. He had been chased by heaven-covering old demon once, and this time, he didn't flee. He was going to fight him head-on and see who was stronger. Kid, let go of me. Heaven-covering old demon raged. This was something that had never happened before. Now that it was happening in front of him, how could he take it? Lin Fan shook his head. I won't let go. Why don't you let go and let me see what your Dao artifact looks like? Maybe when I'm sick of it, I will return it to you. What do you think? When heaven-covering old demon heard these words, his face flushed red. Preposterous. He was regretting it now. He allowed this kid to escape in heaven-covering demon sect. If he knew that this would happen, he would have killed this kid to prevent future problems. There was a loud explosion. In terms of strength, heaven-covering old demon wasn't Lin Fan's match at all. His giant body flew towards Lin Fan. Lin Fan hollered. Green veins appeared on his arm, and he punched heaven-covering old demon's face. With a pung, it was as if the world had exploded and there was a terrifying explosion. Heaven-covering old demon flew backward, and his giant body fell to the ground, causing the ground to shake. Lin Fan didn't even take a look. He just played with the celestial killing spear in his hand. Your Tao artifact is not bad. It contains some sort of power within. Who created this weapon? I feel like it's impossible. Lin Fan asked. After using the astronomical phenomenon, the celestial killing spear became huge and even sharper and more terrifying. There was a loud explosion. Heaven-covering old demon climbed up with a furious expression. His eyes were bloodshot, and he gritted his teeth. Return it to me. Kiki. Lin Fan smiled. Just as he was about to say how was that possible, the celestial killing spear in his hand changed. It disintegrated at a speed that the naked eye couldn't pick up. It turned into many thin ropes that tied Lin Fan up. Then, more ropes pierced Lin Fan's body like they had a mind of their own. There were many of them. They were all bloody holes. Lin Fan was shocked like he didn't expect this. Ha ha. Heaven-covering old demon laughed. Kid, how can you understand the mysteries of a Tao artifact? Each Tao artifact is born from the heavens and has many uses. If you want to steal my Tao artifact, then let's see whether or not you have the ability. Lin Fan was stunned. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. In the blink of an eye, the celestial killing spear returned to normal and turned into a streak of light that appeared in heaven-covering old demon's hands once more. Lin Fan, on the other hand, looked a little miserable. How is it? Is it painful? With your current state, I think, damn, heaven-covering old demon shouldn't have said such words, but he had no choice. He had to say it. What did he see? That kid recovered in the blink of an eye. Lin Fan sighed and shook his head. Young people will always be young and will always suffer at the hands of old people like you. But suffering is a blessing, and it is normal to suffer. Okay, let's start again. I won't fall for it. Chapter 497. When Lin Fan snatched his celestial slaying spear, heaven-covering old demon was furious, but that was just fake. This was why after the Tao artifact counterattacked, he was really excited. Young people were just young people. They thought that they were strong and dared to do whatever they wanted. That was a price to pay. Even a Tao Realm Stage 7 expert would be badly injured. Even if they relied on the undying body to recover, they would need large amounts of energy and strength, causing them to be in a weak state. That kid was so injured, but he recovered in the blink of an eye. That was unbelievable. Was he even giving him a chance to live? What secret technique is that? Heaven-covering old demon asked. Just now, he felt a sense of familiarity, but it was too mysterious, and he didn't know what it was. Lin Fan smiled. Speaking of which, all of you are familiar with it. Shidao Sek's blood demon reversal technique had a lot to do with your evil alliance. How is that possible? Heaven-covering old demon didn't believe it. How could an outsider obtain Shidao Sek's secret technique? Moreover, how could he have such ability? If he was so overpowered, would Shidao Sek still be like this? They would have crushed all the sects in the world. Nothing is impossible. Naturally, Lin Fan knew why heaven-covering old demon didn't believe him. The main reason was that he was just too overpowered. But what could he do? Blood demon reversal technique was a secret technique that couldn't be cultivated to the peak. It was also a technique that was hard to use. Even if someone cultivated it to the 4th stage, it would be tough for them to use it even once. If not for Lin Fan having the small support system that could provide unlimited recovery Tao patterns, he wouldn't have been so confident. Okay, there is no need to think about all these problems. I fell for your tricks and took a small loss, but I won't next. Lin Fan's gaze became solemn and his aura boiled. The destructive strength of the astronomical phenomenon was just too terrifying. This area had long been turned into a deep abyss. Maybe once this ended, he should change a place. Heaven-covering old demon didn't dare to be careless. He didn't underestimate Lin Fan anymore. He treated the kid as someone of the same level. The battle exploded once more. Heaven and earth shook. Evil spirit old ancestor couldn't help at all and could only stare. The other old ancestors who followed him all had the urge to run. But as the battle hadn't ended, they felt like it wasn't good to just run like that. Rumble. Terrifying astral winds blew over, like sharp blades, mercilessly slapping at their bodies. Evil spirit old ancestor didn't expect that he would face such a situation. The battle situation between the two of them was enough to force him to take a step back, not daring to take the initiative to approach. With such strength, even if this old man joins in, I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold on for long. Evil spirit old ancestor was someone who knew his place. He could see more clearly. Time continued to flow. Heaven-covering old demon felt huge pressure. It wasn't that Lin Fan was suppressing him, but that the battle between the two of them consumed too much energy. But looking at that kid's situation, he was full of energy and didn't look like he had been fighting for such a long time. If he had known that Lin Fan had the small support system that gave him unlimited stamina and strength, he probably wouldn't have continued fighting with Lin Fan. It was too tiring and torturous. Rumble. A fierce collision broke out between the two. A bright and dazzling light burst forth. The light enveloped heaven and earth. The space within the range continued to shatter, and the void flowed in reverse like a giant dragon, tearing apart everything nearby. This fellow will never get tired. Heaven-covering old demon panted, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. With his cultivation, naturally, he wouldn't feel tired from such an intense battle. But the kid in front of him was problematic. Each time he attacked, he used his strongest strength like he was using the strongest strike of a Tao Realm Stage 7 expert. Each time he counterattacked, he could only use his strongest strength to block. At the same time, Lin Fan's physical strength was too terrifying and it restricted him a little. Lin Fan looked at how heaven-covering old demon was panting and smiled. Old fellow, you feel tired already? The battle has just begun, so don't be too anxious. Kid, don't be too arrogant. Heaven-covering old demon looked at him coldly and thought about how to deal with him. He wanted to use strength to suppress him, but surprisingly, the kid wasn't weak, and it was tough for him to take him down. As for evil spirit old ancestor and the others, there was no need to say much. Apart from evil spirit old ancestor, the others didn't have the right to do so. Heaven-covering old demon was filled with regret and felt like he was being used as a tool. Evil spirit old ancestor was the one who suggested this. But now, he was the only one who made the move. The others were still watching from the sidelines. If we continue, there's a high chance that we will lose. Heaven-covering old demon kept silent and thought about what was going to happen next. Leave this place and not clash with this kid. The moment such a thought appeared in his mind, he was prepared to execute it. As for the others, he didn't care at all. Their lives and deaths didn't have much to do with him. This kid's combat strength could fight against someone at Tao Realm Stage 7, and it would be tough to kill him. He thought that since the kid hadn't comprehended the undying body, there was a high chance that he could kill him. However, after witnessing the secret skill of instant recovery, there was no longer any hope. This was tough. Lin Fan smiled. Old fellow, you aren't saying anything and aren't doing anything. Are you thinking of running? Heaven-covering old demon was stunned as he looked at Lin Fan. Damn, this brat could even see this. He really did have the thought of running away. Kid, do you think that you can continue living? You're someone that everyone in the 4 alliances wants to kill. As long as they know where you are, no one will let you live. Heaven-covering old demon said. Lin Fan smiled. Is that so? Maybe you're right, and not many people are willing to let me live. But in the current situation, how many people do you think it will take to kill me? Heaven-covering old demon frowned. What an arrogant fellow. At the same time, heaven-covering old demon confirmed that no matter what, he had to kill this kid. Just as he was thinking about all of this, the situation changed once more. Lin Fan disappeared from the spot. Although his 100,000-foot body disappeared from the spot, his body was too huge, and when he sped through the air, there was a loud explosion. Pong! In the blink of an eye, Lin Fan appeared beside Heaven, covering Old Demon, and punched. Under such a situation, skills weren't important anymore. Just his fist alone could smash him into pieces. There was no difference in strength between the two of them. It was tough to say who was stronger. In the blink of an eye, the two terrifying giants exchanged hundreds of blows, exchanging blows with each other, neither of them backing down. Heaven covering Old Demon's Tao artifact was really terrifying. This was the first time Lin Fan had faced a true Tao artifact. It was obvious that there was a huge gap between Tao artifacts, and Heaven covering Old Demon's Tao artifact was slightly stronger. From the few clashes, one could sense how strong it was. It didn't come from him, but from the Tao artifact itself. Pong! Just at that moment, the two of them attacked and hammered one another. Lin Fan's fist landed on Heaven covering Old Demon's body. Naturally, Heaven covering Old Demon wouldn't just take a beating. How long? Heaven covering Old Demon felt his blood boil. This kid's strength was just too terrifying. If not for his strength, just that fist alone would have badly injured him. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor frowned and didn't know what would happen next. He couldn't sit still anymore. No, even if he couldn't sit still, he didn't dare to move. Suddenly, when he turned his head, he realized that the few old ancestors who followed him had all fled. How did this happen? Even if they couldn't help, Heaven covering Old Demon was still fighting with Lin Fan, and the outcome wasn't decided yet. For them to leave just like that was just too embarrassing. Where do you want to go? At this moment, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor realized that the Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader wanted to run. He chided and stopped him. Senior, the situation is not good. Why don't we leave? Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader said. Such a battle was something that he couldn't imagine. It was just too terrifying. It was so terrifying. Moreover, he didn't have high hopes for Heaven covering Old Demon. If he could suppress him, he wouldn't have dragged on until now. So, the outcome was already predicted. Maybe the senior who was fighting ran faster than anyone else. Why are you leaving? Do you think that we will lose? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered in rage. A fierce glow flashed in his eyes like if he dared to say anything more, he would die. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader panicked. Although he wanted to run, he didn't dare to fight back against Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. After all, the person standing in front of him wasn't someone he could offend. If he really pissed him off, the outcome would be catastrophic. Suddenly, leave. Heaven covering Old Demon hollered in rage and dashed into the distance. He had decided not to fight head-on with Lin Fan. There was no need for that. With his strength alone, he couldn't do anything to Lin Fan. He had to find someone stronger. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was stunned. He looked at Lin Fan in rage and then didn't bother about anything else. He just left. Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader was left stunned on the spot. Damn, all of you ran. So what should I do? In that short moment, Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader exclaimed. He felt like there was something wrong with his brain. Since everyone was gone, then why was he still here? Naturally, he had to run. But right as he wanted to run, a terrifying aura spread towards him. Don't leave. With a smack, Lin Fan opened his fingers and instantly covered the Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader. To the Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader, this palm was like a piece of the sky. He lived in this piece of sky, and it was tough for him to escape. No, Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader panicked, and his face was ashen white as he cried out. With a pong, his fingers closed, and the Great Tribulation Temple Sect leader's body disappeared forever. I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Lin Fan shook his head and didn't care much about this matter. He shrunk his body and deactivated the bug's battle mode. Everything returned to normal. But the environment around Marshall Path Mountain was too bad. It was destroyed in a battle. Hayes, such a good place, was destroyed just like that. What a waste. Chapter 498. He learned a lot from the battle with heaven covering Old Demon. It felt good, and he didn't feel anything weird. He felt that these old fellows had many tricks up their sleeves. In terms of strength alone, he was confident that he could exceed him. Of course, if the battle dragged on, it wouldn't be hard to suppress him. "Young Master Lin, are you okay?" Zhao Lishan asked. Swordhead and him were both stunned. That battle was just too terrifying. Dao Realm Stage 7's destructive strength was just so terrifying. Even if Swordhead and him went up, they probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. "I am okay. It is just that this place is badly damaged. It was such a beautiful place in the past, but now it has become like this. What a waste." Lin Fan shook his head. He placed Marshall Path Mountain here because the environment was beautiful. But now that this place was in ruins, it was filled with holes and holes. Zhao Lishan looked into the distance and looked around. "Haze, it is indeed a waste. But there is nothing we can do about it. The ripples from a Dao Realm Stage 7 expert are enough to destroy everything. It is fortunate that Marshall Path Mountain wasn't affected. But what should we do next? It seems like they know where Marshall Path Mountain is, and they definitely won't let this matter rest." Zhao Lishan was a little worried. This time, a Dao Realm Stage 7 expert moved. The situation wasn't good, and if several more came, the outcome would be catastrophic. "It is okay. Let's find a good place, but it doesn't need to be too far. As for whether or not they will let this matter rest is not important. As long as they dare to come, I will deal with them. Moreover, there aren't many Dao Realm Stage 7 experts." Lin Fan believed that there weren't many Dao Realm Stage 7 experts. If there were, then those sects wouldn't have tolerated the Imperial Dynasty for so long. Swordhead was also the Sword Palace sect leader. Sword Palace was a top sect, but Swordhead wasn't at Dao Realm Stage 7. So, not all the top sects had Dao Realm Stage 7 experts. Zhao Lishan respected young Master Lin's confidence. He didn't even think about what would happen next. The enemies that they offended were really terrifying, and they weren't easy to offend. If they were not careful, they might die. The divinator was so excited that he was about to jump up. So I wasn't wrong. Sect Leader Lin's luck is just too thick. Even if he faced danger, he could solve it instantly. That is just too terrifying. The divinator was knowledgeable, but he had never seen such a situation. So he decided to follow Sect Leader Lin and not think about anything else. If he gave up on such a lucky person, then he didn't need to live anymore. This was a rare opportunity. If he missed this chance, there wouldn't be a next time. Therefore, even if he had to kneel down and hug someone's thigh, he had to firmly grasp this opportunity. All right, I think the original location of the Great Tribulation Temple is not bad. Let's move there first. These guys ruined the scenery around me. I'll remember this first and make them regret it when I have time. Lin Fan was a little narrow-minded and had already remembered this matter in his heart. In the distance, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's heart jumped. He didn't dare to think about the Blood Lotus anymore. It was too King scary. He thought that the kid's strength was at most on par with his. He didn't expect that he would be able to fight evenly with heaven covering Old Demon and even force him back. Just thinking about it was terrifying. I am walking further and further on the path of death. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor wanted to toss this hatred to the back of his head and not think about it anymore. Although the Blood Lotus made his heart hurt, he had to think about his own life. He couldn't lose his life just to take revenge. But he couldn't imagine what Lin Fan relied on to raise his strength to such a realm in such a short time. Did he rely on some shocking treasure? That was obviously impossible. As for talent, that was just nonsense and couldn't be trusted at all. Forget it. He wouldn't think about all that for now. For some reason, when he thought about how heaven covering Old Demon was forced back, he wanted to laugh. Maybe the fact that an expert ran away made him feel a little more at ease. No wonder the Alliance headquarters wanted to leak news of this kid and wanted the 4 alliances to kill him. But it was useless now. That kid had totally grown up. Who would be sick enough to fight someone with Dao Realm Stage 7 strength? If they couldn't kill him, the consequences would be unimaginable. After heaven covering Old Demon left Marshall Path Mountain, his face was dark and sunken. He fought with the kid for a long time and didn't gain any advantage at all. He didn't even do much to the kid. As a Tao Realm Stage 7 expert, he couldn't accept that. He thought about gathering some Stage 7 old demons to head back, but he decided against it. Those Tao Realm Stage 7 old demons were all really cunning. If there weren't any benefits, it was impossible for him to get their help. To him, he would rather work with Celestial Alliance than Evil Alliance. He was afraid that when he was badly injured, the Evil Alliance old demon would suppress him and swallow him. Why'd I want to kill him? Heaven-covering old demon thought about it, and then thought about his son. But thinking about it, his son was just beaten up and his life wasn't in danger. So why did he have to do that? Forget it. I admit defeat and won't argue with you. But if I have a chance in the future, I will definitely take revenge. Heaven-covering old demon muttered to himself and thought about it for a moment. There was nothing to argue about. Stabilizing himself was the most important thing. During the time he fought with Lin Fan, he understood his situation. He had an instant recovery technique, and no matter how badly injured he was, he would be able to recover instantly. Such an ability was just too terrifying. Moreover, it wasn't a smart thing to offend such an enemy for heaven-covering demon sect. But demon refining old ancestor was really pitiful. He was instantly killed at Tao Realm Stage 5. He was just sending himself to die. If that was possible, then no, this had nothing to do with him. It should have been evil spirit old ancestors matter. If demon refining old ancestor wanted to find someone, then they should find evil spirit old ancestor. Some city. The Alliance headquarters worked together with the Imperial Dynasty to suppress the sections. At this moment, Zhu Xiang led the team back, and when he passed by the city, he realized that it was empty. The streets were in a mess like they had just been robbed. General, what is going on? When we passed by just now, there were a lot of commoners living there. An assistant looked at the situation in front of him and asked in disbelief. Zhu Xiang was expressionless, and a weird glow shone in his eyes. He knew what had happened, but he couldn't say it. He didn't expect that His Majesty wouldn't even let the commoners off. This was different from the majesty in his heart. In the past, when His Majesty wanted to rebel, he really thought that His Majesty wanted to. But later on, he realized what the problem was. His Majesty didn't want to rebel, but was just acting out a show. But in the end, the show became real. He should have left. Okay, stop wasting time. Let's return. Zhu Xiang waved his hands and didn't say anything more. Imperial Dynasty was at a disadvantage now. The Alliance headquarters started to be unreasonable. Not only did they need sect territory, but they also needed cities. Even if the Imperial Dynasty wanted to fight back, they had no ability at all. Just the Alliance 9-star generals alone could suppress them so much that they couldn't breathe. To protect themselves, they could only swallow the humiliation and listen to the Alliance headquarters. But that was what he wanted to say. His Majesty had gone overboard this time. A few days later, Great Tribulation Temple, original location. Let's just make do with this place. Lin Fan took a look. If he had to choose, he would choose the original place and not this place. But he had no choice. It was already a good thing to have a place, so why would he have so many requests? Young Master Lin, the Great Tribulation Temple's buildings are not bad. We can keep them. Zhao Lishan said. Lin Fan shook his head. No, I'm not used to using other people's things. It is better to use my own. Moreover, they were all built with real money. The moment he said this, Lin Fan slashed forwards and sliced off the Great Tribulation Temple. He then placed Marshall Path Mountain there. He was a person who cared about the past. The buildings on Marshall Path Mountain were built with money that he worked hard to earn, so how could he just throw them away? Moreover, Marshall Path Mountain had investors. If young Master Huang came to find Marshall Path Mountain one day and missed it, wouldn't it be a huge regret? Imperial Dynasty's wealth was depreciating really quickly. This was also because of the Alliance and the 4 alliances. It caused their wealth to collapse. It wasn't worth much anymore. Among the Marshall Path Mountain disciples, their faith swelled due to this battle. There were already 10 who reached Purple Faith. That was a terrifying number. This meant that Marshall Path Mountain would have 10 Tao Realm Stage 3 experts. But there was no rush. He had to take it slow and let more people feel the benefits of having faith in him. Zhu Shun couldn't understand young Master Lin's cultivation anymore. Even if he racked his brains, he wouldn't be able to believe what he had just seen. If Master Lin knew about it, he would be really happy. During this period of time, heaven-covering old demon went into secluded meditation after he returned. He wanted to break through to Dao Realm Stage 8. Although this realm had become a legend, the battle on Martial Path Mountain had a huge impact on him. The prideful him obviously couldn't accept such a result. Thus, he didn't want to bother about anything else. He just wanted to cultivate in secluded meditation. On the contrary, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor had a huge headache. Demon Refinement Old Ancestor's death infuriated Demon Refinement Old Ancestor, and they found 9 Evil Spirit Hall to demand an explanation. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor had a huge headache too. What did this have to do with him? He wasn't the one who killed him. If he wanted to find someone, then find the person who killed Demon Refinement Old Ancestor. Unfortunately, he didn't listen at all and just treated him as the Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. He was the one who called for him. So now that something had happened, he had to take responsibility. Thus, when the 4 alliances were at war with one another, Evil Alliance had conflicts within themselves. This was why Celestial Alliance White Lotus St. Purity Mountains Guyuan and Celestial Alliance Guasian Islands Su Yuanming felt that something wasn't right. Evil Alliance had top sects fighting amongst themselves, so how could they fight against Celestial Alliance and Buddha Alliance? Chapter 499. Su Yuanming and Master Guyuan met again. Celestial Alliance Guasian Island was led astray by White Lotus St. Purity Mountain. Su Yuanming didn't want to work with the Alliance headquarters at all. He didn't want to work with them at all. The Alliance headquarters was a trustworthy existence. But there was no other way. Not only him, but even Guasian Island was dragged down and had no chance of escaping. Therefore, he could only take it one step at a time. At this moment, the two of them appeared on the summit of a mountain. In front of them, white clouds drifted slowly like snow. They couldn't let others know that they were meeting, otherwise there would be big trouble. Brother Su, the situation right now isn't too good. Some of the top sects in the Evil Alliance are in conflict, and this is affecting our plan greatly. Guyuan paid a lot of attention to this matter. He and Su Yuanming were like the masterminds behind the scenes, watching the changes happen. But now that there was a problem with the changes, it affected everything else. Su Yuanming kept silent for a moment and then said, "Brother Guyuan, I feel like this isn't good. We are walking on the edge of danger, and the slightest mistake will cause us to fall. Why don't we stop here?" "What nonsense are you saying? We have already reached such a stage. It is too late to stop now," Guyuan denied. He knew what Su Yuanming was worried about, but there was no need to worry. Su Yuanming sighed and didn't say much. He and Guyuan were really close. People often said that, at their level, there were no more true friends. But Su Yuanming treated Guyuan as a true friend. Even if he was the despicable Grandmaster of White Lotus St. Purity Mountain, he knew that Guyuan wouldn't harm him. Guyuan said, "I received some news that Evil Alliance's conflict was caused by Evil Spirit Old Ancestor bringing Demon Refining Old Ancestor and the others to find trouble with someone. Then, Demon Refining Old Ancestor was killed. At the same time, Heaven Covering Demon Sex Heaven Covering Old Demon joined in. But this might be a chance for us. If we can direct Evil Alliance's hatred to Celestial Alliance and Buddha Alliance, then this will be a knot that can never be undone." When Su Yuanming heard Guyuan's words, he frowned. He felt like they were causing trouble at the edge of the abyss. It was really dangerous, and it was easy for things to happen. Unfortunately, there was no other way. Since the game had already begun, there was no turning back. Martial Path Mountain. Lin Fan had nothing to do every day. "Young Master Lin, what kind of people did you bring back? Especially those few kids, they are so annoying." Zhu Shen grumbled. Since Zhang Rongming knew that Zhu Shen was a border defense expert, and because he died with the Alliance, he became like a pig. He worshipped him and followed behind Zhu Shen all day. He shouted Zhu Shen time and time again. making Zhu Shan feel like he really was a pig. Lin Fan looked at Zhu Shan. Why? Don't you feel good? Having someone following is better than having no one following. Don't you see how envious others are? Zhang Tianshan is probably really envious. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure walked over from afar. Elder Pig, so you are here. Zhang Rongming ran over excitedly. When he saw Lin Fan, he said happily, Brother Lin. Yes. Lin Fan smiled and nodded. You have been out for a period of time and haven't thought about going back to Giant Sword Sect to take a look. With your current cultivation, you should be able to go back in style. When Zhang Rongming came out from Giant Sword Sect, he was only at initial Grandmaster. Now he was close to God Essence Realm. He improved really quickly. Normal people might need years or even decades, but in just a few months, he crossed several small realms. One had to say that training was really useful. Brother Lin, I don't want to go back. I'm really happy now and have found my life goal. If I don't chase the Alliance away, I won't go back. Zhang Rongming said. He hated the Alliance. During his time in Laozhan City, he knew many people and many seniors took care of him. But they all died to the Alliance, so he swore that if he didn't take revenge for them, he wasn't a human. Lin Fan saw the determination in Zhang Rongming's eyes and didn't say anything more. Zhu Shun was helpless towards Zhang Rongming's actions and didn't say anything more. Young Master Lin, what should we do next? Zhu Shun asked. Martial Path Mountain's existence wasn't a secret anymore. Some strong sects knew about its existence. Although nothing happened during this period of time, they weren't sure whether or not there would be danger in the future. Lin Fan thought about it for a moment. What else can I do? Naturally, I will continue to expand. With my current cultivation, I don't fear those people. But before that, I have to head out. He was really annoyed with the Alliance, especially the strongest 9-star generals. They chased him when he was weak. Now that he was at Dao Realm Stage 4, he was on the same level as someone at Dao Realm Stage 7. He wanted to meet them and let them know that the person they offended in the past was back to deal with them. To where? Zhu Shun asked curiously. Lin Fan smiled. Of course to the Alliance. If I don't teach them a lesson, they will think that I am easy to bully. Zhu Shun was stunned. Young Master Lin, Evil Alliance is the one who came to find trouble with us. It isn't the Alliance headquarters, so why are we going to find them? He was really impressed. Young Master Lin was just so overbearing. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to go to the Alliance. This was something that he wouldn't have dared to imagine in the past. Although he was worried about young Master Lin's safety, but with young Master Lin's current strength, naturally, he didn't care about them at all. If I don't find them, who else can I find? The 4 alliances are at war now. Although I was the one who started it, the Alliance headquarters will definitely attack and push the situation to an irreconcilable stage. Logically speaking, I should head to the Evil Alliance, but to continue to weaken them is just too comfortable for the Alliance headquarters. Lin Fan didn't want to see such a situation. The Alliance headquarters didn't suffer heavy losses at all, and they were even expanding their territory. Only the 4 alliances were fighting to the death. It is best if we are careful, Zhu Xin said. Don't worry. With my current strength, no one in the Alliance should be able to do anything to me. Lin Fan was really confident in his own strength. He didn't think that the strongest 9-star generals could do anything to him, and at most, they would end up on a draw. But thinking about how his father could fight 4 of them and even kill 2, he felt like his father was much stronger than him. This was why he felt like he had to work hard to raise his cultivation. Zhu Xin looked at Lin Fan and didn't say anything. Alliance headquarters. Since Zhu Daoshun acted like he wanted to hide in the forest and scare the Alliance commander so much that he didn't dare to say anything, he had nothing to do. This made Zhu Daoshun a little anxious. No matter what, he was the strongest 9-star general in the Alliance. Losing so many times in a row made him lose face. This was why he wanted to prove that he wasn't trash and that he wasn't the strongest 9-star general who couldn't do anything. But regretfully, maybe because the people from the Alliance headquarters were afraid, they didn't dare to let Zhu Daoshun take over many things. Even if Zhu Daoshun went to ask, the people from the Alliance headquarters would say that someone had already completed the mission. They didn't lack manpower. Not only was Zhu Daoshan helpless, but even Wu Zhiga was the same. In the meeting, the Alliance commander said, I received news that a few evil Alliance experts want to find trouble with Lin Fan and were forced back by him. This isn't a huge matter, but based on the news, one of them is the old ancestor of Heaven-covering demon sect. He is at Dao Realm Stage 7. Do all of you know what this means? Just as the commander's voice landed, the meeting room started to rumble. What? That kid actually reached such a level? The person who spoke was Wu Zhiga. His expression was one of shock, and it was obvious that he didn't believe that this was true. A while ago, he even fought them and was chased by them like a dog. He only knew how to run and didn't dare to fight them at all. Impossible? That is definitely impossible. How can he reach such a level in such a short time? It must be fake. Wu Zhiga felt that all of this was fake. How could it be true? If this was true, then how terrifying would it be? Zhu Daoshan kept silent and then said, Commander, we are not at fault. I would like to fight and kill this kid. Since he knew that Evil Alliance had a battle with Lin Fan, then he definitely knew the location. Right, I want to go too, Wu Zhiga said. When the two of them said this, everyone in the meeting room looked towards them with weird gazes. Their gazes annoyed Zhu Daoshan and Wu Zhiga. What kind of gaze is that? Zhu Daoshan was unhappy. Wu Zhiga frowned and felt that these people were so annoying. They were the strongest 9-star generals of the Alliance, so when were they allowed to point fingers at them? At that moment, in the meeting room, someone muttered softly. They really aren't afraid that something will happen. They have already failed so many times. Haze, the more they want to prove themselves, the more they will fail. Although their voices were soft, they still heard it. Wu Zhiga couldn't take it anymore. His eyes were filled with rage, and he hollered, Who said that? Step out. Zhu Daoshan's expression was really ugly. What he hated the most was people rubbing salt in their wounds. Too much. This was just too much, right? The two of them did fail many times, but there was a reason for it. If not for some accidents, how could we have lost? Now, these 9-star generals who weren't the strongest actually doubted them. This made them furious. They felt like they were slapping their faces. Okay, keep quiet. The commander raised his hand. General Zhu, General Wu, the situation is unclear and the Alliance headquarters still needs the two of you. I will hand this matter to someone else. Commander, do you think that we will keep failing? Wu Zhiga raised his head and asked solemnly. The commander actually didn't know what to say when he heard Wu Zhiga's words. Even though his expression was calm, the glint in his eyes was telling the other party that he was spouting nonsense. But he knew that he couldn't say that. Suddenly, someone charged in. Not good. P.S. This is the last time. From tomorrow onwards, if I don't work hard, then I am a dog. Chapter 500. The situation in the meeting room had reached its peak. Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoshan were looked down on, and that annoyed them. Right as they were about to explode, a kid ran in and shouted that something was wrong. This messed up everyone's rhythm. The commander frowned. Why are you making such a ruckus? This was an important place, and someone barged in without permission. How bold. Commander, this is not good. Laozhan City has been attacked and suffered heavy losses. We don't know if Gang Ben, Gao Bang, and Dulei are dead or alive. There's no reply. The reporting person's face was full of fear. Just now, the energy fluctuations in Laozhan City had erupted like a storm. The power nebula covered the entire scene. This was a scene that could only be caused by a very intense battle. What? With a thud, the commander stood up in shock and disbelief. Who dared to cause trouble in Laozhan City? Moreover, the 3 9-star generals weren't ordinary. The strongest was at Dao Realm Stage 6, and the weakest was at Dao Realm Stage 5. After the U City matter, the Alliance headquarters paid more attention to the border cities and gave them high defensive capabilities. Who knew that such a thing would still happen? Commander, let me and Wu Zhiga head over. Zhu Daoshan said. He needed to prove himself. Wu Zhiga stood out. What Zhu Daoshan said was what he wanted to do. They had failed many times. This made the two of them really unhappy. They wanted to prove to everyone that as the strongest 9-star generals, They weren't trash who couldn't do anything. The commander looked at the two of them and thought about it. Time waited for no one, and if he didn't send people over, it would be tough to say what the situation would be like. Okay, I will give you a chance. You can only succeed this time, and you can't fail. You have to capture the culprit, otherwise we won't be able to answer to the Alliance headquarters. The commander said solemnly. He had no choice and could only trust them once more. If they failed again, then even if he wanted to push the blame away, he would have to see whether or not the Alliance members would agree. Don't worry, if we don't capture the culprit, the two of us won't return, Zhu Daoshan said firmly. His eyes shone with determination. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to accept it. Zhu Daoshan didn't believe that. He asked to fight, not to prove that he was a person who liked to snatch credit, but to let others know that as the strongest 9-star generals of the Alliance, their previous losses were due to special reasons, and it wasn't because of them. But looking at the hateful faces of those people, it didn't matter what the reason was. Just this alone was enough to mock them many times. What a bunch of damn things. Even if I can't capture you, you still have to come back, the commander said. He didn't want to say this, but for some reason, he wanted to say it. Maybe he was afraid that they would suffer a double loss, or maybe deep in his heart, he felt that they would lose again. He couldn't think like that. The commander believed that the Alliance's strongest 9-star generals wouldn't continue to fail with their strength. Very soon, Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoshan stepped into the dimension and headed towards Laozhan City. After the two strongest marshals left, the conference room became lively. I bet they will lose again. Why do I feel like you have a grudge with him? This isn't a matter of hatred, but speculation. They couldn't even take down a kid in the past, but now they're dealing with 3 9-star generals whose highest cultivation is Dao Realm Stage 6. Do you think they won't lose? Scoff, that makes sense. The other 9-star generals in the conference room discussed with one another. They weren't the strongest 9-star generals, but dared to point at them. One had to say that they were really rude. The commander didn't say much. He looked into the distance and prayed in his heart. The two of them had to work hard. If they still failed, then even he wouldn't be able to protect them. Laozhan City. It was quiet and there was no noise at all. It was as if there was no one in this city. But looking closely, one realized that Laozhan City was badly damaged and there were ruins all around. At the same time, there were many people lying there with snow-white eyes and they were unconscious. What kind of intense situation did they go through for them to end up like this? In the distance, someone was talking. I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Why do the names of the 3 of you sound so cool? I wanted to beat you up, but one has to say that your names saved all of you. Lin Fan sat on a rock with the demeanor of a big shot. There were 3 old men kneeling in front of him. These 3 old men had bruised noses and swollen faces. They looked miserable, but they looked at Lin Fan calmly without a hint of anger. It wasn't that they didn't want to be angry, but the injuries on their faces told them that they had to glare at him. To the 3 Alliance 9-star generals, they couldn't understand what Lin Fan was saying. What was wrong with their names? What was wrong with Gang Bin, Gao Bang, and Du Lei? Maybe this native was a lunatic. Lin Fan, do you know the consequences of doing this? Gang Bin's face was thin and his body looked really thin. But don't be fooled by his weak looks. This was a 9-star general at stage 6. It was just a matter of time before he became one of the strongest 9-star generals. If he was lucky, he would break through to stage 7. Then, he would really become one of the strongest 9-star generals. But looking at the situation, Gang Bin had suffered the cruelest blow in his life. They were forced to kneel there and had no way to fight back at all. Lin Fan smiled. Consequences? You shouldn't be asking me that. You should be asking yourselves. Do you know the consequences of occupying this place? Damn, Gang Bin was furious. He knew about Lin Fan's background, but based on the Alliance headquarters investigation, this person was only at Dao Realm Stage 3. How did he have such strength? That was just impossible. Damn, he had really seen a ghost. Did the Alliance headquarters investigators grow up in shit? They even made such a mistake. Marshal Gang Bin still wanted to say something, but was stopped by Du Lei. Du Lei said calmly, You have done what you should. What is your goal for not killing us? Maybe in a short while, the Alliance headquarters will send their strongest 9-star generals over. Although you are strong, you don't have much confidence facing them. Is that so? Lin Fan smiled. Then I really don't know who the strongest 9-star generals are. Is it Wu Zhiga or Zhu Daoxin? They have chased me many times, but look at what happened afterwards. Have they ever succeeded? As expected, Lin Fan's words left them momentarily speechless. They all knew about Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoxin's situation at the Alliance headquarters. They had failed many times and news of that had spread throughout the Alliance headquarters. Even the three of them said that Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoxin couldn't do it anymore. They didn't have the ability to be called the strongest 9-star generals. They should be the ones to inherit such an honor. Of course, they knew that in terms of strength, they were much weaker than Zhu Daoxin and Du Lei. Why aren't you speaking? Lin Fan smiled and asked. He thought about something. Oh right, I didn't forget to tell you that you city in Laozhan City. Which city do you think is next? Gang Ben and the others didn't expect Lin Fan to be so arrogant. But they had no choice. They weren't as strong as him. There were many Alliance members in Laozhan City, and there were more than 3 9-star generals. But the others were too weak and were only at stage 2 or 3. They couldn't even last one round and were suppressed by Lin Fan. As for those generals, forget it. It was just a road to death. Young Master Lin, you are improving really quickly. The Alliance headquarters was too careless and didn't care much about you. But you should know that after this matter, the Alliance headquarters won't let you off so easily. But the Alliance headquarters is willing to turn enemies into friends. Even if you have grievances with them, it is okay. As long as you tell us what you want, I think the Alliance headquarters will definitely agree to it. They can even become close partners. Gang Ben said, the Alliance headquarters always had their own thoughts. If they could take down Lin Fan, then naturally, Lin Wani wouldn't say much. He might even be willing to work with the Alliance headquarters because of Lin Fan. Although the possibility of recruiting Lin Fan was very low, Gang Ben still wanted to give it a try. Lin Fan smiled. Simple, the Alliance will back out of our territory. Young Master Lin, it is obvious that you have no sincerity to work with us. Gang Ben said. He knew that it was pointless. It was impossible for the Alliance headquarters to back out of rich land. How could they give away the land that they had spent so much effort to take down? That was just a fool's dream. It is good that you know. Stop asking stupid questions. To the Alliance, the disaster has just begun. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I will start with the Alliance headquarters. Lin Fan didn't attack the 4 alliances. He was afraid that if he fought too fiercely, the 4 alliances would weaken. When that happened, the Alliance headquarters might have already attacked. This was why he decided to attack the Alliance headquarters first. They had developed for so long and dug out so many mountains, so it was necessary for them to suffer some losses. Suddenly, the dimension in the distance trembled, and 2 shocking auras were transmitted over. It was really familiar. So, it is them again. Enemies really do meet. Lin Fan raised his head and didn't expect to bump into them once more. On the contrary, Gang Ben and the others were really excited. They were here, they were finally here. They knew that something was wrong with Laozhan City, and the Alliance headquarters definitely wouldn't do nothing. They would definitely send their strongest 9-star generals over. Who dares to behave so arrogantly here? Wu Zhiga hollered in rage. His voice was like a bell that spread throughout the area. They eagerly rushed over from the Alliance headquarters to prove themselves. Thus, they didn't want him to run, so they used all their strength to travel through the dimension. They finally arrived. Chapter 501. Lin Fan wasn't anxious at all. He just sat there and waited for the 2 familiar people to arrive. Maybe because he had seen them many times, he wasn't nervous anymore. The first to come out was Zhu Daoxin, and then Wu Zhiga followed closely behind. The first thing they saw wasn't Lin Fan, but the surrounding environment. Their hearts hurt. The once beautiful Laozhan City was now in ruins. At the same time, they noticed many corpses lying around. They didn't touch them, and they didn't know if they were dead or alive. They only had one thought in their hearts. Cruel, who was so bold to actually do such a thing to Laozhan City. He was just asking to die. And what are the three of you doing? Zhu Daoshan's gaze turned, and he saw Gang Bin and the other 9-star generals kneeling there. He was shocked and didn't expect this. Right as Zhu Daoshan wanted to say something, Wu Zhige's voice spread into his ears. His voice was filled with shock and astonishment. "It's you?" Wu Zhige saw Lin Fan right away. Maybe because his hatred towards Lin Fan had reached a peak. This was why he didn't recognize him at first glance. The person he hated the most was Lin Fan. He thought about him day and night and didn't believe that he would be so lucky to meet this person. This was why he was just stunned for a short moment. Now, he finally recognized him. Who was it that Zhu Daoshan was thinking about to actually make Wu Zhige so excited? When he saw who it was, his face slowly flushed red. "Kid, I didn't expect it to be you again." Not only was Wu Zhige furious at Lin Fan, but even Zhu Daoshan was the same. He wanted to capture Lin Fan and tell everyone in the Alliance headquarters that he was the one who captured him. It wasn't that he didn't want to capture him, but something happened. Did he really think that he couldn't? Now that he was right in front of them, this was a chance for the two of them. Zhu Daoshan and Wu Zhige looked at one another and nodded their heads. They swore that no matter what, they would capture this kid. Lin Fan looked at the two of them and smiled. "We are really fated. I didn't expect it to be the two of you again." "Right, we are really fated. The heavens aren't on your side. If you know what's good for you, just give up and follow us back to the Alliance headquarters. Otherwise, you will suffer," Zhu Daoshan said. Before he attacked, Zhu Daoshan activated his domain and locked down the area around. He even broke the dimension tunnel and formed an empty tunnel. Just one sentence. Today, not even a single fly will be able to escape from this old man. With his previous experience, he was already very familiar with it. This kid ran very fast, and he had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Now, let's see how he's going to run. It seems that the two of you are very confident. Lin Fan got up and walked to Gang Bin's side. He sat on his back and said, "General Zhu, there is no need to be so serious. Your methods are not bad. You directly sealed the dimension and even cut it off. It seems like you are well prepared." He didn't care about anything that Zhu Daoshan did. Fearless. If it was before, he would have to think about how to escape. But now, there was no need to escape at all. Zhu Daoshan smiled, but his smile was a little cold. Then, he looked at the three marshals kneeling on the ground. As Alliance 9-star generals, you are actually kneeling on the ground. You have lost the face of the Alliance. Once this ends, I will capture all of you to be punished. Zhu Daoshan raged. When Gang Bin and the others heard Zhu Daoshan's words, they were furious. But they had no way to fight back. He was the strongest, and when Lin Fan sat on his back, it felt like a mountain was pressing down on his body. He couldn't move at all. As for the other two, they were the same. "General, it isn't that we don't want to move, but we can't." Gang Bin tried to explain, but the words he heard nearly caused them to explode. "Don't find excuses for your uselessness," Wu Zhige said. Damn, they really wanted to ask Wu Zhige. When they lost, they found excuses for themselves. Now, they actually told them not to find excuses for their uselessness. Damn. There's no point in saying so much. Lin Fan, I will give you one last chance. Now, surrender, Zhu Daoshan said. He had to admit that the biggest failure in his life was because of this kid. Now is the time for them to wash away their humiliation. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Are the two of you really sure that you could take me down? Lin Fan smiled and asked. He could see the anger and unwillingness in their eyes. Perhaps the previous few defeats had a great impact on the two of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have ended up like this. The way they looked at him was as if they wanted to swallow him whole. There's no point in talking so much. Attack! Wu Zhige couldn't take it anymore. He had waited for this chance for too long, and now that it was here, how could he miss it? More importantly, he was afraid that the kid was planning something else. Okay, Zhu Daoshan understood what Wu Zhige was worried about. This was what he was worried about too. After all, they were already afraid, and there was nothing they could do about it. Lin Fan shook his head. He didn't expect these two old men to be so impatient. He got up and patted Gang Bin's head, hide to the side. You are too weak, and I am afraid that I will kill you. Gang Bin felt like this was an insult. He was at Dao Realm Stage 6, and now someone was patting his head and telling him to hide to the side. This was an insult. They didn't hold him in any regard at all. He only wanted to say that they could fight all they wanted. Could affect him? But very quickly, he knew that everything he thought was wrong. Lin Fan stood on the spot, and Wu Zhiga and the others disappeared. But he could sense two shocking powers brewing beside him, and they were about to crush him. He was looking forward to seeing how shocked the two of them would be. Kid, let's see how you can run this time. Kneel down. Wu Zhiga appeared and opened his fingers. It covered the sky and grabbed everything. Nothing would be able to escape from his hands. Zhu Daoshan didn't look on from the side. His many experiences of suffering told him that he had to deal with it if he could and not be careless. Just when they thought that it would be a piece of cake, their pupils suddenly shrank, as if they had seen something impossible. How long? The two of them suppressed Lin Fan, but Lin Fan, who was standing there, attacked. He punched out and clashed with the two of them. The three powers clashed with one another and formed an intense storm. A strong shock wave swept everything. Laozhan City, which couldn't take it, was heavily injured once more. Numerous ruins were leveled to the ground. When Gang Bin sensed the ripples, his expression changed. He felt a terrifying power spread towards him and smashed into his body. Luckily, his cultivation was high enough, and he was fine. He just retreated and distanced himself from the three of them. The other two were in a tragic state. They were too careless and thought that Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoshan would suppress him in one move. Who knew that things would turn out like this? They spat out blood and rolled into the distance. How is that possible? Your strength actually... Zhu Daoshan hollered. He was totally stunned. He thought that after locking the space and cutting off the dimension, Lin Fan would be like a fish on the chopping board. But looking at the situation, that wasn't the case at all. He and Wu Zhiga attacked together, but they actually didn't do anything to him. Damn, what the hell was going on? It's a pity. Back then, due to my hard work, I managed to raise my cultivation state. Therefore, it should be impossible for the two of you to take me down now, Lin Fan said. As expected, he could fight two of the strongest 9-star generals alone. Although he was unable to suppress them, it was a good start that they were on the same level. As for whether or not the two of them had the advantage, that was natural. But all of that wasn't important at all. He had the Blood Demon Reversal technique, so even if he suffered some losses, he would be fine. Impossible. Zhu Daoshan didn't dare to believe that all of this was real. He had personally experienced how strong Lin Fan was, and he couldn't fight them at all. When he saw them, he could only flee. How could he be so strong now? What had he gone through during this period of time? Brother Zhu, stop talking nonsense with him. If we can't take him down, then we can forget about going back. Wu Zhiga hollered. Okay. Zhu Daoshan knew the importance of this matter. If they really failed, then they could forget about going back. He couldn't afford to lose that face. However, Lin Fan could hear the conversation between the two of them clearly. If they couldn't take him down, then they could forget about going back. Lin Fan thought about it for a moment. He had an idea right away, and he seemed to have understood something. It seemed like the two of them had failed to capture him and lost face at the Alliance headquarters. This time, if they didn't succeed, then they would have lost all their face. I have an idea. Lin Fan smiled and looked at Gao Bang. Gao Bang's injuries were a little heavy, but for some reason, he felt a sense of danger from Lin Fan's gaze. You are the one. The moment he said this, Lin Fan appeared in front of Marshal Gao Bang and stomped down with his foot, causing Marshal Gao Bang's head to explode. The moment Gao Bang died, he only had one thought in his mind. Why was he the unlucky one? The two of you, killing one of your generals, is a warning to the two of you. Don't ask for trouble. I will leave first, and we will meet in the next city. With a pong, Lin Fan turned into a light and dashed into the distance. So what if they laid out a domain? With a wave of his hand, he used absolute strength to destroy it. Marshal Okamoto and Marshal Du Lei were dumbfounded when they saw Marshal Gao Bang's tragic death. On the contrary, Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoxin were shocked. They only had one thought in their hearts. They definitely couldn't let this kid escape from their eyes once more. "Kid, don't think about running. Stop right there." Zhu Daoxin hollered in rage. Damn, he had a bad feeling. Chapter 502. Lin Fan, Zhu Daoxin, and Wu Zhiga disappear in the blink of an eye. Only Gang Ben and Du Lei were left. The two of them looked at one another and felt really fortunate. Maybe they were happy that they were still alive. "How is Gao Bang?" Du Lei asked. As Alliance 9-star generals, they had known each other for a long time, and they had a good relationship. Gang Ben shook his head. "He is dead." His head exploded, and without the Dao Realm Stage 6 undying body, he won't be able to recover. Du Lei was stunned. Dead? She didn't expect Gao Bang to actually die. Just like that, he died so easily. A Dao Realm Stage 5 9-star general died just like that. He didn't even have a chance to shine. He was killed just like that. That was just so frustrating. "I want to report Wu Zhiga and Zhu Daoxin." Du Lei was furious. If not for them being careless, they wouldn't have had a chance to attack Gao Bang. "Are you crazy? If you really do that, then you will have offended two of the strongest 9-star generals at once. Moreover, we didn't defend Laozhan City well, so we have to be punished." Gang Ben was shocked. He didn't expect Du Lei to think that way. "Are you afraid?" Du Lei glanced at Gang Ben. "Naturally, we don't need to talk about Gao Bang's relationship with us. But if we don't pursue it, then Gao Bang really died for nothing. Just tell me if you agree or not. If you don't want to, then I won't drag you down." Gang Ben kept silent for a long while and looked at the headless corpse. In the end, he nodded his head and agreed to her actions. "Kid, stop right there." Wu Zhiga couldn't help but spit out. The two of them knew that this kid ran really quickly. At the same time, they accepted that he was really strong, and if this continued, he might really be able to escape. They knew what the outcome would be if he ran. "Brother Zhu, even if we chase him to the ends of the world, we have to catch him. If not, we are really finished." Wu Zhiga said. "Understood." Zhu Daoxin nodded his head. He really understood. He felt terrible in his heart, and his heart was thumping hard. He didn't know why, but he started to worry when this brat ran away. At this moment, Lin Fan's attitude of escaping was like he was playing around. It gave them the illusion that they could catch him, but they were so close to catching him. Look at how passionately they chased after him and how hard they worked. It would be a pity if they didn't even show some appreciation. "Aren't you too tired of chasing?" Lin Fan turned his head back and asked. Just by looking at their expressions, he knew that these guys were serious. They didn't seem like they were joking around. Evidently, they really wanted to kill him. "Scary. I'm really scared. If you don't run, then we won't be tired. We can talk for a while." Zhu Daoxin wanted to trick Lin Fan to stop and then go all out with Wu Zhiga to take him down. Based on the current situation, it would be very difficult to catch up. Lin Fan shook his head. "I don't think I have anything to talk about with you guys. What's the point of talking to him? When I catch him, I'll break his legs." Wu Zhiga's temper started to flare up again. How could he be in the mood to talk nicely to Lin Fan? This brat had set them up multiple times, and Wu Zhiga's anger had long been unable to quench. Zhu Daoxin was helpless. Wu Zhiga was too rash. Till now, he still couldn't tell that Lin Fan was purposely luring them. But the key was that this seduction was really effective. They couldn't afford to lose anymore. If they lost again, then no matter what reason they had, it would be useless. It didn't matter if he lost his title as the strongest 9-star general, but he remembered those people's faces. No matter what, he had to fight for his pride and face. Not long later, Tianshui City was in front of them. This city was one of the border cities, and the Alliance 9-star generals were there. Moreover, they weren't normal 9-star generals. They were all around Dao Realm Stage 4, and were a bunch of peak experts. "Not good. This kid purposely led us here. He probably wants to con us," Zhu Daoxin said. Wu Zhiga looked at the city ahead, and his expression changed. "What should we do? Should we chase or not?" Zhu Daoshan was in a tough spot chase. He knew that even if they didn't chase, the outcome would be the same. No one would be able to block Lin Fan. If they didn't chase, then Lin Fan would basically be able to escape. If they continued to chase, at least they would know where he was. Zhu Daoshan hollered, "Tianshui City, listen up. I am Zhu Daoshan, and I order all of you to leave Tianshui City." His voice reverberated and covered Tianshui City. He hoped that they could hear it and leave right away to reduce unnecessary casualties. Within Tianshui City, the 9-star generals were confused and didn't know what was going on. But they all sensed 3 extremely strong powers spreading from a distance. When they heard the voice, they knew that the person who came was the strongest 9-star general, Zhu Daoshan. "Quick, listen up. Follow me to welcome General Zhu." The 9-star general in charge of Tianshui City misheard Zhu Daoshan's words and thought that he wanted them to welcome him. Even if Zhu Daoshan's reputation wasn't good in the Alliance headquarters, he wasn't someone they could humiliate outside. Otherwise, if they offended their superiors, they would be in deep trouble. "These bunch of pigs." Zhu Daoshan looked into the distance and saw those people standing in the middle of the city like fools. How could he not know what they meant? It was obvious that they had misunderstood him, just as he was about to inform them. He knew that it was too late. Lin Fan's expression was solemn. He raised his right hand and used it as a sword. A sharp glow exploded from it. Scolding and playing was one thing, but one shouldn't joke about spies. The 2 strongest 9-star generals' contributions to the headquarters were obvious. If they really suspected that they were spies, how disappointed would they be? The next day, Zhu Daoshan and Wu Zhige's expressions became more and more solemn. They were certain that they had no chance of catching up to him, but they couldn't continue wasting time like that. No one knew what the kid's goal was. Moreover, the 2 of them were certain that the Alliance headquarters knew about them, and it was obvious that someone had started to attack them. If they left without any gains, that would only prove that they had failed once more. "Young Master Lin, please wait for a moment. I just want to make a deal with you." Zhu Daoshan stopped Wu Zhiga and told him not to chase. He just stood there and said, Lin Fan wanted to turn around and tell him to stop bragging. But when he saw the 2 of them standing there and not chasing, he was a little surprised. Did the 2 of them really want to make a deal with him? "What are you doing now? But don't think about working together. Joining the Alliance headquarters is impossible. Do you understand?" Lin Fan said. Wu Zhiga wanted to say something, but Zhu Daoshan stopped him. Zhu Daoshan said, "Don't worry, I am not so dumb to talk about such useless deals. But I have to say that young Master Lin is amazing, and we really respect you. The 2 of us are the strongest 9-star generals in the Alliance, and we have lost to young Master Lin many times. This has caused a huge uproar in the Alliance, and our reputation has hit rock bottom. If we don't bring young Master Lin back, we won't have the face to return. So, I would like to ask young Master Lin for help. Of course, I won't mistreat you, but it depends on whether or not you are willing." Zhu Daoshan had no choice. He felt really bitter deep down. The strongest 9-star general was such a prestigious and glorious title, but he couldn't take down a native kid. He had lost all his face. "Let's talk about it. I am the most passionate person in Yu City. As long as it is reasonable, seeing how old all of you are, I can help." Lin Fan said. He really did look like a good person. "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.